We do have a pretty long agenda tonight, so I am going to call the meeting to order. I think I have all LAE members except one, you know, I think we'll join soon. So going to go ahead and open the meeting. So again, thank you. We're here for the Lawrence Alliance for Education meeting for December 9th, 2020. And just as a reminder, in accordance with the governor's executive order in March, we are holding this meeting remotely, and all board members and staff of the district are participating remotely. As such, we will be taking all votes through roll call, just in accordance with that executive order. So before we start, I'd ask that we please stand and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We have a lot of guests tonight as well, and we tried to order the presentation such that we can get folks out of here as soon as possible. But just before we jump in, just want to say a couple of quick words as part of my report. First of all, I just want to say this agenda is fairly long, but it's important. All the topics are really important here. And for LAE members, what I did is I worked with the superintendent and Joan. We reviewed the minutes from the last meeting just to try to really make sure we were capturing all the questions that were coming up from the last meeting. We did try to chunk them into themes sometimes, just because, again, we want to make sure that we're being responsive to all of you, and also framing, you know, some of your questions within broader themes that the district can address. And then I know the superintendent then follows up with individual conversations with members, again, just to make sure that, you know, she's understanding questions that people have. So this is our, you know, my best attempt again at capturing all of that. I know it's a lot of information. If there's something that, you know, we weren't able to capture or, you know, address, again, let us know. We'll be happy to try to include it in future agendas. So I have 3 items. The first is just really exciting news that, as you all know, we have a student member, typically that's a part of the board, and we did have a subcommittee who worked with the district to identify a student, and they've put forward a recommendation. I'm going to go ahead and you know, just talk about this person briefly. So the person recommended is Ashley Dominguez, who's a 17-year-old senior currently attending Lawrence High School. We have our bio in the packet, so I won't go through it all. I did have a chance to speak with Ashley. I mean, she's really excited about serving on the board, and I reiterated to her how important it is to have a student board member and just the voice that, you know, students bring to these meetings. So the process is, you know, the committee's recommended her. The vote, I would entertain a vote to approve Ashley as a student member, and then she would join us at our next meeting in January. But before I ask for a motion, I'm wondering, folks on that committee, Jess, Noemi, or anyone, is there anything you'd like to say about the process or anything just before I ask for a vote?
I mean, it was not an easy decision because I felt like we had 3 really great candidates. And it's always a pleasure to read the statements from the candidates and hear their perspective on themselves and the growth that they've been through and their relationship to LPS. And, you know, so it was great in that way. And I guess we just collectively felt that Ashley would just bring a lot of value and a strong voice, and not be afraid to speak out in our meetings and contribute her input and her feedback. And so we were delighted to pick her, but it was difficult to make the final determination.
Great. Noemi, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what she said. It was a very difficult decision, but at the end, the description of how she wrote her passion about the Lawrence High School and the public schools in general, we felt that she would be a strong advocate, a good representative for all the students and the families. So we're very glad about that.
Great. And again, thank you for your work on reading the statements and what's a really hard decision. I think the only thing I would say is if we have opportunities to engage some of the other students, because I read their bios and they were pretty incredible. Makes me wonder what I was doing in high school, but yeah, really, really strong. So again, like we're lucky to have these sorts of students who are putting themselves forward for these kinds of roles. So definitely would want to tap them for future, opportunities. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for Ashley Dominguez to join the LAE as the student rep.
Can I make that motion?
Yes, please.
All right, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'll do a roll call vote. Noemi?
Approve? Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Julio?
Yes.
I don't believe the mayor's on yet. Is that correct? I don't see him. Okay, and the chair votes yes. So so that is approved unanimously. So I will let Ashley know. She actually is likely watching on Facebook Live right now. She was doing a course, but she said she had a break at 6 and she was going to try to watch for a few minutes. So Ashley, if you're watching, congratulations, and again, really excited to welcome you to the board. The next two items I'm going to take sort of together. We have the turnaround plan update and the earned autonomy update. And this is just to flag, not only for LAE members, for the community, that these were two important pieces of work that, we've been working on with the district for quite some time. And as folks may remember, the turnaround plan is really the plan that guides the work of the district. And so this board voted about a year ago to work to renew the turnaround plan, but that kicked off a community engagement process to get feedback, and we'll continue, to get feedback once a plan is drafted and presented. So this committee will be meeting next week. So I just want to signal for folks that the committee is going to be picking up the work and just really determining the next steps for the work. And similarly with the earned autonomy committee, again, this is work that we spent about a year on to date. And really, I'd say at a high level, the goals of the earned autonomy work are really about taking what is a core tenet of the Lawrence Public Schools, which is this open architecture model, but then really creating a way to use local data sources to really kind of, assess like how are schools doing along different dimensions. And then at the same time, based on how schools are doing, to really articulate the types of autonomies that they have available to them. And so the idea here is that, it's not just sort of the metrics that are used by the state, MCAS, things like that, but looking at things like school quality reviews and, surveys of families and things like that. So it is something that we spent quite a bit of time on, and the first phase was completed with the partner CPRL, which really gave us a framework. And now the next steps are, really about designing the details of the plan and how to roll it forward. So for the purposes of tonight, I just want to say that committee has met, and the plan is to really dive into the work in January. But this just did want to flag for, again, the LAE and the public that those are two pieces of work that have been significant and that we're going to pick back up, when we come back in January. And any questions from board members? And if not, I'm going to move us to the superintendent's report. Let me start. Well, just a few questions. Board members, you're going to mute yourselves. If not, we're good to go. All right, I'm gonna move us forward. So we have quite a cast of characters here tonight with us, and many of them are related to this first topic. But Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you, and you can drive it from here.
Great, thank you so much. I've learned that Facebook Live had a little glitch as you were announcing Ashley's candidacy and eventual vote. So I just wanted to congratulate her once again. We're very proud of her. And as you all have already stated, we had excellent candidates, and it was indeed a tough choice. I did read all of those letters, and we're really proud of our students' interest. And of course, we invite them to other leadership options and possibilities throughout the district. So next, I'm going to ask Odanis, our CFO, to introduce our team. I see SMMA and a bunch of other people. Go ahead, Odanis.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Again, Odanis Hernandez. I'm Acting Chief Operating Officer for Lawrence Public Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Joining me are members of the Oliver School Project team. Team, as I call your name, can you just wave so at least folks know who you are? We have Alex Pitkin and Kristen Olsen from SMMA. They are the architects of this project. We have Christian Reardon from Consigli, who's our construction manager. And we have Deborah Marai, the OPM, and Danny Garber-Letitia, who's a project manager from PINC. The reason why we're here tonight is to update you on the project status of this project, to review the upcoming schematic design submission to the MSBA, and to ask for your vote of support in our submission of the schematic design package to the MSBA. The schematic design submission is important. It establishes the project scope and budget. After the MSBA approval, the project scope and budget, we can then secure project funding. So that means that we have to go before City Council sometime in February. And then it just kind of moves us along the process of this project. And before I turn it over to Alex, who's actually going to do the presentation tonight for us, I just want to mention that the project team will be coming back to the LAE after a City Council vote on transfer use of the parcels to LPS for use by the Oliver School. And Alex, as he goes through his presentation tonight, he'll point those parcels to you so that you can see what that means to the project and why it is so important to us. And now with further ado, I'll just turn it over to Alex Pitkin, who's going to do the presentation for us tonight. And he'll be giving us the update through the presentation on the project and also the review of the schematic design submission. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen as I share that now. So thank you to the LAE Board for having us back once again. It's been a few months since we last met with you. I will be brief, but try to give you as comprehensive a look of where we are at what is called the end of our schematic design process. Just really quickly at the beginning, your city and the LPS are part of our design team, and we met with them very early on to make sure that the Academy Oliver and the Oliver Partnership Schools were correctly planned out, and continue to work closely with them to make sure that they were meeting all of those needs. We also have the other partner, of course, which is the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and they will be also participating financially. We have been successful in creating a single consolidated educational complex for grades K through 8, bringing the kindergarten cohort to the Oliver site, as well as the other two schools. So I'm very excited about that. And of course, that really supports your district-wide plans for this group. And of course, it was so important to make sure that we were meeting the students' needs within the North Common District with this facility to continue to support the families and the students directly in this neighborhood. So where have we been since we last met? We are in the process, as Adonis talked about, of acquiring 4 parcels. I'll talk about that in a second. We've hired a CM. I really commend the city for joining us and helping us to do that. And I'll talk about that at the end with the cost estimates and why Consigli plays such an important role in that. And of course, the fact that we are able to accommodate the full 1,000 students, that's larger than the number of students you have today. It was just critical that we meet that need for the district. And we've been meeting with a couple of Lawrence Historic Commissions. So we do know that this existing building has played an important role in the city. And so having a historically sensitive design or respectful has been critical to our thinking as well. And we've met with the SPED director on student services. This is a really important part because this is sort of a separate approval from the MSBA. And so getting all of those programs really identified early in the project is really critical, because once we get through this process of schematic design, we're kind of locked down. And this is sort of a very high stakes component of what we're doing today. And it ended up resulting in about 162,000 square foot facility. And we are always endeavoring to work closely to make sure that we are maximizing the amount of money coming back from the state to the city of Lawrence. So to the parcels, the multiple colors you see here is the aggregation of 4 parcels of land to the pink parcel, which is where the Oliver Partnership School, that existing white footprint today. And you can see the little three-dimensional diagram. We're adding a parcel that already belongs to the city of Lawrence up here in this corner. We are adding Cardillo Way, which sounds like it's already actually part of the school, but we just want to formalize that. And then 2 LRA parcels. They were extremely enthusiastic in supporting us. It's a minor cost of $1 each for those 2 parcels. So it's really no cost to the city to make this aggregation. And here you can see the new footprint, and you can see why these parcels are so truly important to us, to make sure that we were able to mass the building appropriately on your site. One of the interesting things that came about recently was the recognition of how important Cardillo Way is from an urban design perspective, also relative to the school and its connection from Short Street through Campagnon Common and to downtown Lawrence. And so during schematic design, we were able to pivot and create this very nice, safe, secure connection through the site that will be able to maintain that important connection. We see pedestrians using that every time we come to visit the school, so we recognized its importance. Another important topic that we've been hearing about, and we're going to be continuing our wraparound meetings with the city engineers, the conversation about parking using the city streets or nearby parking garages if possible, but also the importance of safety and security for drop-off and pickup, and obviously encouraging pedestrian access to the school as much as possible, local bus access as well. So this diagram just kind of quickly shows some of our strategies for making sure that we have safe access for students who are coming out of vehicles or walking across streets, and how we're going to achieve that as we move forward with the design process. And I'm not going to dwell on the floor plans, but this diagram shows the floor plans, and it shows the distribution of the 2 schools within the one facility. And we're keeping the middle school students sort of up on the higher levels, and using the older building and the newer facility behind it and underneath it for the OPS. And so I think that's really working out very well. It's one school, one group of students, but they do have their own environments which are appropriate for the age groups and the pedagogy supporting those students. And then just the individual floor plans. These are the critical elements of where we're at the MSBA. These are linked into what's called the space summary, and they're linked into the cost estimating. This is what we've been spending so much time on, to make sure that all the educators are really adjacent to each other and connected, because the plan really won't be changing substantively as we move forward. And so all the plans are here before you, and happy to answer any questions as we move forward. Another interesting diagram that we may have shared before is the idea that the building is a connection between Campagnon Common and the O'Neill Playground. To the right is Haverhill Street, and sort of the reestablished courtyard. And again, you can see that smaller scale of the building, really appropriate to the OPS. And then the northern side of the building on the O'Neill Common, and this idea that we're recreating historic building as part of the school. This will really have a certain transparency that will really connect across the entire site. So this will also very much be a public or neighborhood resource. So the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the learning common spaces, those are all right down on those lowest levels. And I think this building is going to get a lot of great use in the evenings and weekends as well. And then just a quick massing models to show, the potential for the beautiful restoration of the front of the school, facing Campagnon Commons, and then keeping that mass to the north and back, taking advantage of some of the roofscapes for some outdoor learning opportunities, since, as you saw from our planning, that we are using every square foot of the ground plane. So really looking forward to this opportunity for creating a beacon for the students as they come to the school. The northern building a little bit more mature for those middle school students, and really an exciting new building in this part of the city. I'm not going to talk deeply about the schedule, just to say that we are on track for getting the school open on time per our feasibility study. We are submitting at the end of this month, and we should be before the MSBA board in February, and getting final approvals from your city council and yourself in that interim period. And I do just want to talk a little bit about the total cost of the project. It's $132.3 million. That was, as I mentioned earlier, reconciled by 3 professional cost estimators, including the construction management firm of Consigli. That's why this was so important. Your city can have a high degree of confidence that, well, we've had that much set of eyes to look at this very complicated project and come up with the right value and the right scope of the project. And that is within the feasibility study budget, which was established quite some time ago. So that doesn't always happen that we're able to deliver on that. So we're very excited that we're still on target for the city. We know how important that is for all of you as well. And with that, I will pass it back to Adonis.
Thank you, Alex. I guess at this point, if you guys have any questions, we will be happy to answer any questions. Again, we are here before you tonight to ask for a vote of support for us to be able to submit the schematic design package to the MSBA. The submission is due at the end of the month, and we are, on target to meet that deadline. In fact, we may be submitting a week earlier, fingers crossed. So with that said, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, Adonis, before I turn it over to the board members, can you just frame for us, again, because this is one step of the broader process that we just saw, but it's a very important one. So the board votes tonight, to support, the submission. What happens next, just before it gets actually submitted? I just want to make sure we're all clear on that from the board.
Sure. So what happens is we continue to move forward with compiling the information and completing the application. Alex mentioned in his presentation that we met with SPED directors. We did, one of the requirements for this submission is that we also submit a request to DESE for our SPED plan for the school. So we met with Dr. Toomey and the zone director to be able to look at those questions and review floor plans and review what our classrooms for our special education students would be within the school. So that's all part of the package that needs to be submitted. Again, the cost estimation for the total budget project, the construction costs, all those things are part of this submission. So we've been working on that all along. Your vote tonight is just going to allow us to be able to finalize that package and be able to just submit it to the MSBA.
Got it. Thank you. I'll start, just see if board members have questions. So I'll start with Jess.
Yeah, I was just wondering, could you just talk about parking a little bit? I know that that is always like a concern. I know that it's a neighborhood school, like a lot of kids walk there or bike there, etc. I live 2 blocks from there, but I know that teachers do drive in, and so I'm just talk to us a little bit about what the parking considerations are.
Right, so right now, the project does not include any parking space. Parking was never part of the project for the reasons just that you stated. It's a neighborhood school. We are joining 2 schools that are very close, nearby as it is now. We are anticipating that those teachers, will continue to, and staff will continue to use existing parking as they've been doing all along. So short answer, this unfortunately, because of the constraints of the school and the city and the neighborhood, the project does not include parking. It was impossible for us to find an area to add parking.
Can I help that too?
I figured that from the presentation. So, I mean, I'm okay with that. I feel like it's worked so far, for the 2 existing schools. I think that one thing that I will say about it is that the more and more of a local workforce we have, the less and less something like that it becomes an issue too. But I'm glad that we're keeping a model of neighborhood schools where families can walk and bike to that. But I do, I know that it might be a concern for some.
The mayor has a response. Yep, Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way Adonis laid it out is actually perfectly right, and the comments you make to Jessica is, again, supports this whole concept of, I mean, it's a neighborhood school. It's going to be a neighborhood school, but we do have the Buckley Garage, where it's a short walk down the road. We do have on-street parking that is on that side of the park where there aren't parking meters. I know there's some near the library. Currently, they're not being charged, but there's very few paid parking spots. Most of those paid spots are not paid parking spots. But in the end, the building a modern, urban K through 12 school, K through 8 school in an urban environment like this that does not really allow for that. And we do have probably have more cars per capita than anybody else in the Commonwealth. We have almost 45,000 registered cars in the city of Lawrence. And so what is going to be more important for families is going to be making sure we can get people in and through that area for drop off and pick up. And we're going to have the same amount of bus traffic to some extent. But I think that going into us, we all knew that every precious space was going to be to impact and inform and make better the education space and the education program. And I think they did that.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Jess, any other questions or comments? Great, Noemi?
I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Pat?
Yes, just one quick question. As you did your presentation, can you explain where the children will be playing? Are you still using the Campagnon Common as their playground?
You want me to answer that, Don? I'm sorry. Yes, we've always intended to use that Campagnon Common play space, creating a more safe crossing point, as I had mentioned it as part of the traffic circulation. But we all are creating a lot of outdoor learning opportunities on some of those upper floors, and so in the redesign of the front courtyard as well. So we are creating opportunities for students to stay on campus and yet be outside, which is so important during, as we've learned from COVID, but we know that even in non-COVID times, that's important for education.
All right, and the reason I'm asking is I'm on the LAE Building Committee, and our design with the LAE has a rooftop play area.
Yep. Yeah, so we have,
Did you consider this at all?
yes, we actually have 3 rooftop independent learning areas. They're closely associated with the science programs, and then also one of the special education special programs for some of the autism students. So we're making sure that there's really readily, easily accessible, safe and secure space, which also has really excellent solar orientation to the south. So they will be nice habitable spaces there.
All right, thank you.
Great. Mayor Rivera, any comments or questions?
Nope, I'm all set.
Great. Julio?
Thank you for that presentation. I think you have made very good use of all of the space that we have available. My knowledge of the area is there's always been congested, and it will continue to be congested based on where it's located. So my biggest concern would probably be, and this would be something that the city council would probably have to deal with in terms of parking for the residents of that area, to perhaps provide them with stickers for resident parking only, because so that this won't become an issue with the residents of that area, especially on the area of Oak Street. But besides that, I think the schematics that you're presenting is probably the best that can be done in that area. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I have no questions, but again, just echoing all the work that I know has gone into this phase, and just really excited. The design, I think, like folks have said, utilizes the space very well, and it's just really exciting to think about, this building coming online and being designed in such a way that really supports the academic program, which I think was really, really important. So I have no further questions. I just want to confirm, because we are going to be taking a vote on this, that once we take the vote, my understanding is that, again, the application is due, I think, December 28th from the slide, but later in the month. And that, Odanis, I just want to make sure I'm correct here, that, we'll be taking a vote as an LAE to approve this, but it might be subject to revision and just sort of final tweaks from the mayor and the building committee representatives. Is that accurate?
Right, that's accurate, Mr. Chair. What we're asking is for your vote of support of the schematic design submission, and that in your vote language, you give authority to the mayor and to the COO to then do the final review and then do the submission on behalf.
On behalf of the district. Great.
Yeah, right.
Great.
We saw the same vote from our school building committee last night, and they approved.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
A statement about we talked a lot about parking and space and education. Just to address the money, it's 130 million, I believe it was where we landed. Is that right, Alex?
132.3.
This is not something that is easy for us to pay for. We are supposed to get 80% reimbursement for Mass School Building Authority. It's probably going to be more like 60, 58%, maybe even 55, depending on where we end up with stuff. So the help that we're going to need from this body to help have conversations with city councilors and address the annual cost for this is going to be important. But I'm promising that we're going to also make an effort to try to get with MSBA to say, how about the biggest school district that is under receivership get an actual 80% cost, reimbursed. And so we're going to need everybody's support to talk to our state delegation, but also to make a run at the treasurer of the Commonwealth who runs the MSBA to give us what a district in our condition and a district under our circumstances really deserves, and that is the full 80%. Even though right now what you're voting on is the 132 million. The hope is that we're going to try to drive that number down by getting more support from the state, but also with the work we're going to be doing with our CM at risk to engineer things so that we can save as much money as best we can.
Great, thank you, Mayor Rivera. Okay, so at this time, I would entertain a motion, and let me just read the motion because we have it ahead of time. To approve the schematic design submittal for submission to the MSBA in accordance with the presentation at this meeting dated December 9th, 2020, which report is subject to revision and final approval by the mayor of the city of Lawrence and by the LPS Building Committee representative. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I think maybe Noemi got in there first. I'm not sure. I'll let Joan determine
That's
that.
fine.
Any discussion by board members before I do a roll call vote?
The only thing I would add is that I do think the design is really beautiful. I think you guys did a great job in very compact space, and I love the fact that we're keeping the historic facade and features and integrating that with the, more modern part and making use of both the common and the O'Neill, and that's just great. So nice job, guys.
Great, thanks. So I will do a roll call vote. And again, just a vote in the affirmative is that you're supporting the motion. So Jess?
Yes.
Noemi?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mayor Rivera?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the motion is approved. So thank you. Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you, and maybe you can signal if it's okay for some of these folks to hop off.
Yes, thank you, Team OPS, for being with us this evening and for all the work you've done so far. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, happy to carry on with this agenda. So next we are going to be having 3 school teams talk about what they do, the efforts that they do in order to support our students around engagement and attendance. But I first wanted to give you just a quick update on actual attendance. So our attendance overall from the beginning of the school year to now is about 86%, as compared to 93% from last year. And then week over week, we continue to be about 6 to 8 points off from last year when we were, of course, in person. We're going to continue to work on those strategies that we have been talking about and wondering. But tonight, I think we've invited 3 of our school leaders and their teams to talk very specific about some of those efforts. So with us this evening, we have Lisa Conran. She's the principal of LFA and her team. We also have Peter Lefebvre. He is the principal of Partham Middle School and his team. And then we have Bob Kerr, who is the principal at HLC and his team. I'm going to start with Lisa and her team. And again, these school teams are going to share with you all of the work that's very nuanced and very detailed when it comes to attendance efforts when students are not in class. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa first, followed by Peter, and last Bob.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lisa Conran. I'm principal of Lawrence Family Public Academy. We are a preschool and kindergarten school located in the old St. Augustine's up on Tower Hill, for any of you who are familiar with the area. And I brought with me my family support specialist, Francina Escolastico, and my school clerk, Victoria Degro. And I just wanted to share with you oh, good, look at that, it worked. Okay. So I just wanted to share a few statistics with you. In the pre-K, our students, we have 43 this year. We have 30 in the morning session, 13 in the afternoon. And in kindergarten, we have 119 students, 61 in the morning and 58 in the afternoon. And some of these students are students who are what we call loopers. So they started with us in pre-K and they've looped with us into the kindergarten session. Our attendance, and I compared it with our attendance for the past couple of years. In September, we were at 88.75% this year. It was a matter of finding all of our students and getting them all onto our technology. And I'll let Francina and Victoria talk to you about that part of it. Francina has been a huge help with getting everybody connected onto Class Dojo and onto Clever, the Clever portal. In October, our attendance was 93.34, and in November it was 91.62. And in the past couple of years, we've been pretty similar, so it's not been too bad. I am going to share with you, and well, Victoria will share with you what we do to track our attendance. Victoria, I'll share that attendance template.
Hey, Lisa, can you press the button on the top for presenters mode? That might give us a better look.
Oh, sure. If I can find that.
Let's see where we are here.
Oh, I can't, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go over to this. Victoria, are you ready?
Good afternoon. Well, good evening. So I'm going to basically explain how we manage and track our attendance. As we are managing our attendance remotely, and we know that the connection to the internet service at times can be slow, or at times we can lose outage in general in town. So within, like we have done in the past months, so we have put together a Google data sheet as a backup to better track our daily attendance. As you can see here, each teacher is mailed this Google attendance sheet, which indicates the current month, their students' class list, both AM and PM session, and the remote codes that they all need to use, similar to how they take Power School attendance. Each day, they will track attendance on the sheet. Within the first 25 minutes from the moment that their student logs in and then they submit. This is a shared document, so I can edit this Google sheet. So if the teacher or the para either sends me a text or an email notifying me of any attendance change, either if the student logged in tardy or leaves early, then I will make the change, update attendance in both Google, in the Google sheet and in Power School, and then I will add the comments of the reason why or the time that they logged in, or whatever excuse that they have. So we always document it. So in case that we do have a power outage or our service is slow, we like to have a paper trail in the event that we're not able to do Power School attendance. And then we compare our numbers so that we can have an accurate attendance so that every kid's attendance counts.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria. For our family engagement, we started before the kids started on the 16th. We had what we call a family orientation. So we had each family in both AM and PM sessions meet with our the classroom teachers so that they could learn how to log on. They could learn about Class Dojo. They could meet each other. So we had 63% of our families in attendance at the open house, at the family engagement, family orientation. We also had an open house on October 7th, immediately following both sessions, so that families could learn more about our curriculum and what the students were doing in the classroom. Although most of our families are with us throughout the whole 2.5 hour session where we're live. The families have been really, really amazing with that. I've run 2 coffee with the principal sessions, one in September, one in November. We tried different times to see which would best suit families. Our attendance in those are still kind of low, so we're going to work on doing something to get the attendance up in those. And we're also running an LFIS program, which is coming to an end in 2 weeks. Our participants will graduate. So we have 2 English and 2 Spanish sections offered in the morning and the afternoon. And we've had 13 families attend those. And those are really timely with the remote learning that we've been doing, as the families are really being taught and informed what is happening in the classroom and why we're teaching things the way that we're teaching them. and it will help them to work with their children better. So that was a really good program. Our pre-kindergarten schedule has us starting at 8, and they're live for the full 2.5 hours. They take several breaks in between. I'm fortunate enough in my building to have gym, art, and music teachers in the building. So students have gym, art, and music once a week. They also have a social skills class, and they have library in both pre-kindergarten and kindergarten as well. And this is what our kindergarten schedule looks like. And for our platform, we use Class Dojo, and we use that for everything. So the families don't have to try and switch to different parts of Clever. They're on Class Dojo. The Zoom link for the class is there. The students do their work and turn it into portfolios. So everything is located in one spot. We have 100% of our students connected on Class Dojo and 98% of parents. And I'll just quickly show you portfolio, and then I'm going to let Francina share how she has been reaching out to our families. But this is some of the work that the pre-K students have shown or have turned in. And then this is kindergarten. And it just supplements what the students are learning in the class live with their teachers. So I'm going to turn it over to Francina Escolastico, and she can talk to how we are reaching out to our families when students are not in the class, and to help them with the issues they might have with technology.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm so excited to share with you how we work in Lawrence Family Public Academy. The first thing that we do in the family is, as soon we notice that a family is in our power school, I call the family and I welcome the family. This is your place. We are here for you. We're going to be partners. This is the first thing. We make the families feel so welcome that this is your place for you and your child. The second thing that we do is we inform about the family, about all the services that we provide for the children, as well the 2 sections that we have, and we encourage them to choose for the more convenient for them, in order we can have the child every day in the school. As soon as they choose what section they're going to have, we partner with it and we inform that the child has to be every day in the school, Monday to Friday, at the time that they select. Another thing we said to them, if your child won't be in the school, you have to call us, and we provide with a school phone number, my direct line as a family support associate. As well, we provide and encourage to the family to log in Class Dojo in order they can have a direct communication with the teacher. As Victoria showed in the system, we have a little box that we can write comments. Immediately we get a phone call for the family. We write in that little box, and we know where the children is at if he's not in the school. Victoria, in the daily basis, how she check the attendance and follow up with attendance. I check every one of the other day. If I notice that we have a child absent for 2 days and we don't have a little note explaining why the child is not in the school, immediately I take actions and I call the family. I call the family in the morning. If I don't reach the family in the morning, I call at noon. If not, later in the day, I send email. Is in 24 hours, I don't get information for the family. Next day, I will be contacting emergency contact. If not, next day, I'm going to be at a home visit. This is the way that we conduct and we follow up with attendance. As well, I just check with the family as soon as they come, and I say, why you need to have your child every day in the school. We provide the family with a backpack with basic supplies for the children to have: crayons, notebook, folders, a teacher, all kind of stuff, water bottle, to have the child ready to be in the school every day. As well, I ask if they need internet connection, if they need an iPad. I provide with the family, or the school provide, the district provide with the family with their need. Every single iPad that we have been provided is updated with every single app that we use, and they just have to access to Clever. Clever have the class, the teacher classroom, and under that classroom, they have class dojo. When immediately we create a dojo account for the student, and then where they can work with the homework that is called portfolio, and they can submit every single electronic homework. Another thing that we always try to provide a contact person. If they have any situation in the school, the parents know, our parents know who to reach for. They can call the school if they need to inform anything. If they have problem with the technology, they know who they're gonna call. They know the number. They know the email address, and they have the class dojo to communicate with us too. They know what to do when they are facing some situation, and they can log in. And then this is the way that we inform the parents. We partner with them, and we let them know how important it is to be in the school every day, not just for the children, not just for them too, if not for the children and for the school attendance too. One other thing that we do too is if we have some families that are facing some difficulties to have the child on time, could be like because the mom is working from home and can't pay attention that the children need at that time, or if the family are having like a difficulty with the childcare, that can be one day the childcare, 2 days at home, or if simply they are little children, they can be for 2.5 hours in front of the screen. We provide a little asynchronous, I don't know how to pronounce that word, as a synchronous program that we meet the families where they are at, and we provide always solution to have our children to have access to the curriculum, as well to have the attendance in good shape. I always try to build that relationship with the families. They know who look in the school. If they need anything, I refer the family for anything. If they need job, I refer a curriculum. If they need food, they know who they're going to reach to. And then if they have problem with the technology, if I have to go to the house and just drop off a hotspot because they don't have internet, I will do it. I need all my family in the school. I need to know that all my children are safe in the school. Open to any question. Have a good night.
Francina, thank you for that excellent report. Thank you, Victoria. And of course, Lisa, thank you so much. You should know that one of us on this team loves that word asynchronous. So they're a big fan of the word asynchronous and synchronous.
I don't use it. You're officially allowed not to use it. It's a trick question.
Let me tell you, I practiced the whole afternoon to pronounce that word in this meeting, and you know what happened. I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's a trap. It's a trap.
Yes, it is.
So maybe we'll pause here and ask questions of this team, if that's okay, and then we'll move on.
And sure, are you going to call on us? Or?
I'm going to go the other direction. So, Julia?
I'm all set. Francina, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor
I love
Rivera?
my community and my family.
Sorry, Mayor Rivera?
I'm all set.
Okay, Pat?
Yes, I want to commend the team. That was a wonderful presentation, and I'm really impressed with the family engagement procedures that you've implemented. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Noemi?
Same thing. I was it was very refreshing to see the excitement and all the work that you guys have been doing. As you know, since we started on the board, we have always been pushing for more family engagement, and it's really good to see that it is happening. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Jess?
Hey, Francina, how are you?
Hi, Jessica.
I just was wondering, I thought that was a great presentation, and it was very thorough and took care of most of my questions. I'm just wondering, like, what would you say, if there was like 1 or 2 top reasons why, we've seen like the statistics overall are that, we're about 5 percentage points off on attendance across all the schools, right, from where we were last year. And would you say the biggest struggle is the technology, or the biggest struggle is like the economic circumstances of the family, or the biggest struggle is childcare? Do you have a feeling about what's really the biggest barrier?
Well, at the beginning, I think it was the technology part. and then just make the family feel that they can do it and find an easy way for them to do it, because we are afraid of the technology. It's not just the families that I don't have experience. Even myself that work every day in front of a computer, when they have a new feature or a new program, I'm afraid to do it. We are afraid to touch it. It's just give the family the confidence that we are here for you. You can call me anytime. My phone is a public phone for all the families. If they need to call me, I FaceTime with them, I guide them. It's just to give the family the guide that they need, as well the support that they need, and just let them know that you are here for them, and that confidence that they can make mistakes, it doesn't matter, we are here to support them. And the other part is, like, I think the economic support, we are a low-income community, but we have a lot of services in the communities too. And the families have access to that, and they know that we have. I'm not afraid of that part, even though that we have families that struggle, and we try to guide them, but I'm not afraid of that part, let me tell you. Like the lack of food on the table, I'm not afraid, at least with the community that I work for. And another thing is try to build the relationship with your family. We are here for you, and give them part of the responsibility. We are partners. We are not just the school, and you are not the parent. We are partnering this together to provide the best education we have for your children. Make them feel part of. We are not two different parts. We are one together for the same purpose. It's like the way that you manage the thing with the family that can turn in engagement, in partnership. But in the other, I'm not worried with the food on the table. A lot of our families take food stamp, and they have a good amount of money for the families. They have week because we have 4 years old. I'm not afraid with the family. And even though that we know that we have families that have certain economic issues, but no putting food at the table. I'm not worried with that.
Thank you, Francina.
And again, just going to echo thank you and for being here, and for your team and the other teams as well. I know that you're here after a long day as well, so thank you. The only comment I'll say is, Principal Conrad, when you presented the attendance data, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised to see that for pre-K and kindergarten, the attendance rates for October and November were either, just below historic rates or actually higher. Which wasn't the case at the beginning, which I sort of attribute to technology and who knows, like everything else. But clearly, your efforts at engaging families and students and making sure that they're able to log on was reflected in that data point, where again, attendance was, I think, in December actually higher than it's been for those two grades historically. So just commend you, and thanks for being here. And Superintendent Paris, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much, LFA team. Next, we're going to hear from Principal Peter Lefebvre and his team.
Good evening. Thank you, Superintendent. I brought two of my rock star staff members, and I'm going to let them handle it because they take the meat and potatoes of this attendance and they go crazy with it. So I brought Amanda Sullivan, who's my Dean of Curriculum, and my counselor, Mrs. Ashlyn Lord. Amanda, want to take it away?
Trouble unmuting myself. Thank you so much for letting us come in. It's always good to come and talk about something that's going great at your school. So we are appreciative of the invitation. So in sort of thinking about, what are we doing? I think the driving thing for us and our school and our team is really that we want the kids to know that we want them in class. We are all over them. We will miss them when they're not there. We will notice when they are not there. We will track them down when they are not there. And we will make them get up even if they don't want to, especially when dealing with middle schoolers. So I think just relentless about it is really the key. The really most important thing I think to talk about with our approach as a school is that we're really team-based. I mean, none of us could do this on our own. Our team is made up of our 5th grade counselor, our middle school counselor, our behavioral specialist, the principal, the assistant principal, myself, our amazing parent liaison, our clerk. So that's really how we've taken the approach to tracking and staying on top of attendance. based on the attendance reports that are run on a weekly basis. We actually meet as a team once a week on Tuesdays, and we sort of go through all the kids that we are looking. We've identified through data, almost like an RTI model, sort of that top tier level, the kids that you're really concerned about. And then we call that our hot list. And then we have our ones to watch, which are sort of the ones that, especially in middle school, are showing up to some classes and not to others. And each adult sort of takes on a case, almost like a caseload you would have, or a case manager. And so at those Tuesday meetings, we really dig into, okay, we did this, we talked to this family, we met with this person. And in that sort of relentless piece, we are constantly on a Google Sheet that's got kids' names across the top and who with the data every week. I'm going to let Ashlyn sort of talk about our outreach.
Amanda, could you just repeat the last 1 minute, because you froze? I don't know if you froze for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, of course I did. That's great.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. You were talking
I'm
about
sorry.
The Google
Yeah.
Sheet.
Yeah, so
so
how we track our hot list students and our ones to watch is through a Google Sheet that all team members have access to. And we just make it a really important thing for all notes. Anytime anyone reaches out to a parent, or we have a meeting, or the behavioral specialist reaches out, we have those.
Amanda, unfortunately, you're coming in and out, unfortunately.
Ash, can you hear me? Do you want to take over the outreach, the outreach part?
Yes, thank you for having me. So for the outreach, every day we run a report with the students that have missed 3 or more classes that day, and it's shared with the entire team. And then from there, our parent liaison sends out an all-call that afternoon to families to inform them of the absences. And if there's a concern throughout the day with maybe a large group of students in a particular class, the parent liaison will call home and inquire about the absences to the students, and then shares all of that information with the team. And then students that we have identified as a high concern are brought to the attention of our team in a few different ways. Sometimes it's a referral from a teacher to the behavioral specialist, and other times we see it in the weekly data reports off of Power School that we run. And we just make sure that we are constantly knowledgeable about specific attendance issues. And we work together all day long, communicating with the parent liaison, the deans, and the counselors, just so we're all on the same page with these families. And we also reach out to families and students through Zoom to support them. And we'll make calls in the middle of the day. For example, a parent liaison contacted me today knowing I had a close relationship with a student and said, the student's not in class, can you reach out to them? So I called him and I was like, where are you? It's, it's time to get up, let's get on your Zoom. And he did. And that's kind of how we've been working in the moment to make sure that, we're not letting too much time pass without a student arriving to class.
Very good. Yeah.
And then lastly, just sort of how do we handle those? If I freeze, Ashlyn, just take over.
Okay.
How do we handle those chronic absenteeism situations, those hot list kids? I think it goes back to the thing that I said about relentless. We are setting up Zoom meetings with parents and with students, especially at the middle school level. It is key to get the buy-in from the kids as well as the parents, and to really have that conversation with them. The question really is not, how dare you not come to school, or, what's wrong with you? It's really, how can we support you? We know things are difficult. What can we do to help you? What can we do to support you in getting on school? And sometimes with students, it's making concessions like, maybe tomorrow you don't turn on your camera, but we need you in class. So really trying to meet students and parents where they're at right now is really important. Like I said, we have the caseworkers So some of us have absolute connections with some of those kids, and we are on them constantly. And, you know, we have needed to perform some home visits as well, but I would also just add Dojo, as the other school talked about, is a huge piece of how we communicate with parents as well. So I think that's really it. Mr. Lefebvre, anything to add?
No, that's perfect. It's you know, the team does a great job of building relationships. Our parent liaison does a fabulous job. Once she gets the attendance, it's out to parents, letting them know the situation. Please call us, whatever the situation may be. But it's constant communication, and it's to let the parents know we're here for you. We know we're not a big fan of this whole COVID and what's going on, but we're here for you. Whatever you need, please let us know. And they do that. They have conversations with us. And for the most part, I didn't, you know, bring a PowerPoint, but our attendance is pretty strong when we get every single kid in. We're averaging anywhere from 97 plus up every single day, which is pretty impressive, you know. So that's what it's about.
Thank you, Team Partham. We'll take questions.
What I would say to the board members, because I know we have one more presentation and we can ask questions sort of at the end, but if there's any pressing question around this presentation specifically, you know, I would say just board members unmute, and then if not, again, we can wait till after the third group, and then I'll go through everyone again.
We can wait.
Yep, great. Let's keep it going. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation.
All right, we'll jump into the high school team. This is the HLC, the High School Learning Center, with Bob Kerr and his team.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for having us here. I'm excited. I've started out with not being on mute, so that's always a good sign. I've also asked all my children to not be on the internet, so hopefully I will not fade out. So I'm not very popular at home in the moment, but thank you for having us here. We are the High School Learning Center, and we are an alternative high school. So I just want to take a moment to give you a little context about our school. We service students between the ages of 17 to 21 who may not be on track to graduate. Many of our students are transferred over from the main campus or have been re-engaged and want to return to school for their high school diploma. Many of our students have had life circumstances that prevent them from engaging in traditional public high school situations or settings, and which has often resulted in attendance issues for them. So at the High School Learning Center, we have the opportunity to offer several alternative pathways for students to receive credit and work towards graduation. We offer credit recovery classes, summer school, directed study, acceleration academy, online classes, and flexible scheduling. We are privileged to be a very small school, and because of this, our students benefit from small class sizes, which allows them to have individual MCAS preparation and daily faculty advising. This ensures that students are receiving individual support around attendance and academic achievement. In slide 3, we have a tiered system when it comes to an attendance intervention, and this took a great deal of time with our teacher leadership team to establish this. And so tier 1, it really outlines the outreach and communication protocol for students who may have had 1 to 4 absences. Our teachers understand the relationships and that are very important. So they prioritize calling students and families when students are out. And some examples of being in tier 1, after the first absence, a student receives a friendly text or phone call from their advisor. The second absence is a call that is made to a parent or guardian. And the third or fourth absence could be an outreach to the parent and guardian as well. And again, a lot of our work is being done through our advisors. Each advisor has maybe 7 to 10 students at most that they are responsible for really trying to develop those family relationships and engagements with the students. All of our communication and outreach is logged into PowerSchool, which serves to inform for targeted support and interventions, but it also allows us in a high school, as you know, students have 5 or 6 educators in one day. So we want to make sure that we're not inundated families, but we want to make sure that we are making contact. So we're very cognizant of the times that we reach out to families and making sure that it's recorded so that we're all on the same page. After the 5th absence, that's when we have a tier 2 protocol that comes into place. The advisor submits an attendance referral to the attendance team. and the attendance team meets to review the referral and gather context and information. Our attendance team meets at least twice a week, and as we move forward through the year, we'll probably see an increase in that. The attendance team then moves to arrange for a success plan meeting with all the stakeholders. And so I have not asked my colleague to introduce herself again, but she will introduce herself and then talk you through the success plan meeting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Raquelma Vargas. I am a dean at the High School Learning Center, and I'm very happy to be here. So I am going to talk a little bit about our Tier 2, which is our Student Success Plan meeting. Our Success Plan meeting, we approach it with a positive or asset-based lens. We invite all stakeholders to participate in a discussion with the student to identify current barriers to attendance and to come up with strategies to overcome those obstacles to attendance. So just to demonstrate how this is asset-based, prior to the Success Plan meeting, the Success Plan lead reaches out to all the stakeholders to compile strengths and assets of the student. So we actually start our meetings highlighting those strengths and assets, and we see how the students automatically become more comfortable and more empowered when they see that all the adults on the call care and they're invested in making sure that they're successful in school. So who are the stakeholders? This is my handy dandy picture. We didn't want to put our students' faces in it, but it's everyone listed on this screen. So first and foremost, it's our student. Afterwards, we have our parent and our parent guardians or family members. The faculty advisor is also invited. We've had social workers attend the call. The administrator, the guidance counselor, the adjustment counselor, and the engagement specialist are actually part of the attendance team, so they often attend the Success Plan meeting. And then we also invite a content teacher. So when we're planning for this meeting, in the call, the Success Plan lead actually asks the students to identify a content teacher that they're comfortable with, or a teacher that they've developed a relationship with, or this might be a class that they've been successful in the past, and they want that teacher represented in the meeting. I want to mention that there's an emphasis on student voice. Student ultimately decide who attends. If you look at this image, these are 9 adults on a call. Some students like this. They like, you know, being on a call and kind of witnessing a cheer squad. Other students like to dial back. This might be pretty overwhelming for some students. So in the process of planning it, it's important for the Success Plan lead to mention who's going to be in the call, and ultimately we let the student decide whether or not this is something that they're comfortable with. So this is our Success Plan flowchart. It's very difficult to see here, so I'm actually going to pull it up in another screen. So we created this handy dandy tool so that people can see the process and basically outlines the process and who does what. So Bob essentially started us with Tier 2, and he covered this. So the advisor submits a referral. The referral comes to me, the dean, and I just go through the referral and get some context from those Power School logs. And then ultimately it's brought to the attendance team. And then this is really when the process starts. So the attendance team convenes. We identify who's going to lead. The lead starts to coordinate these 4 steps, outline the steps to coordinating that Success Plan meeting. So first it starts with the asset-based call to the student and family to offer the Success Plan. We really believe in buy-in at HLC. It's an alternative school. We know that students have to buy in. At the end of the day, we want them to want to attend. And then after that's the logistics. You confirm the availability of the student, get a date, time, and also confirm a medium. So we've been doing Zoom, but we also offer phone call or video through WhatsApp. After that, the next piece is inviting the team members. So people on the attendance team, informing the advisor, the teachers, sending out the calendar invite. And then we start with our paper trail. So we make a copy of the Success Plan form. We pre-fill the categories. So as I mentioned, the history, the strengths, the nature of the absences. The 4th day, we send out that reminder email. Hey, everyone, we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Here's the Zoom link. So we have the Success Plan meeting. After the Success Plan meeting, we send out the documents. We send out a copy and a summary to the teachers so they know that there's a plan in place. And then we also track. We record it in a tracker that we This last piece is really important, and we place a pretty big emphasis on it. The follow-up is really important. This is how we ensure that the plan is working and to continue to support the student in the process. So typically the lead schedules a follow-up call or meeting 2 weeks after the original meeting date. But knowing our team members, they're in constant communication with students, so this might happen before the 2 weeks. So this takes us to our last slide, and I will pass it back to you, Bob.
So our intended outcomes is really to look at improvement in students' attendance and grades. Also with family engagement, parent guardians participate and demonstrate understanding and commitment to shared responsibility of student success. It's really exciting at the high school level. I've had the opportunity to do similar work in elementary and middle, but it really is exciting to have parents on board showing their support in trying to be part of the plan to assist their student. Another outcome is to discuss the nature of attendance issues and provide social emotional interventions. Sometimes those interventions occur right within the meeting, and I think Raquelma may have mentioned that I think the most exciting part of the meeting outside of really honoring the student and their strength and the resilience is really looking at what are some of the supports that they might need early on. And what's great about having so many members of the team there, if that's appropriate for the student, is that we've been able to make connections directly with the school adjustment counselor. So if they didn't have a relationship at first, by the end of the meeting, they have an idea of our school adjustment counselor who has a clinical background who could be very supportive. We've had students who talk a lot about time management and executive functioning. And so we have the opportunity to meet with them immediately to help them develop a schedule and a template and kind of to provide structure for them even before the meeting ends. So that's a tangible thing they're taking away from the meeting. And quite often, as you can imagine, if you've had adolescents or worked with adolescents, tips for building healthy sleep habits and time management. So we take the opportunity to include students and families in that discussion as well. The other outcome is that it's really important that students have the opportunity to really connect with 1 to 2 teachers to discuss individualized support. For returning students, it's really kind of neat that they are able to quickly single out a couple of teachers who they want at that meeting and could also use them for support, whether that be a phone call home or a check-in. The other part that we have present is our guidance counselor there, because the ultimate question that comes in as we're working with our high school students is, when am I going to graduate? So we have really concrete answers before that meeting ends. They have their graduation plan developed right in front of them, so they know exactly what is left before they're able to graduate. And again, students are able to identify multiple adult supporters in the building, which is so important when we're in-person learning, but I think even more important in this kind of remote world where it's really a little bit more difficult to kind of develop those relationships. So those are some of our intended outcomes as part of holding these success plan meetings. And that is it. We're open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Riquelma. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to thank all 3 teams that are here. Just really helpful presentations. And again, I know it's late in what's already been a long day, but I will go through the board members and see if they have questions for, in general, for the superintendent or any of the school teams in particular. I think I started with Julia last time. Tell me if I'm wrong. So I was going to start with Jess. I'm gotta keep track. So let's go with Jess.
So I don't want to keep people, but I would love to just hear briefly from the last 2 teams the same question I posed to Francina. Like, what do you guys see as? Is it just that COVID is kind of exacerbating all of the underlying reasons why students would have been absent, last year? Or are there specific things that we should be paying attention to, or, trying to leverage resources around to provide additional support? That's my question. And I did just want to say that it is really lovely to hear all 3 of you in different ways talk about the importance of developing these relationships with the students and the families. I do think that that's absolutely key to success in this. And I also really appreciate this asset-based approach that the HLC folks were talking about as well.
I'm not sure if I will address your question directly, but I think yes to the first part in results to COVID-19 still having a very significant impact on our students and our families. And we are hearing almost daily of transmission rates that, that are impacting our students. So that is definitely one of them. One of the things that we talked about when we first spoke about HLC is there's also life circumstances that sometimes as a result of COVID or just life circumstances where students' attendance is impacted on what I like to call very adult responsibilities, caring for siblings, caring for their own children, paying their own apartments and place to live, shortage of food. So I think I don't think there's one thing, but I think like thinking back to March, many of the same circumstances that were impacting our students and families are still impacting them as well at this point.
Yeah, I'll second that, Bobby. I think it's pretty much everything. If you really take a look at it, it's, the COVID, it's, the parents need to work, but they're home, the kid, I think it's just everything coming. It's like a bad storm for the most part. And you feel for them, and you really do feel for them, as many times as I'd love to go over there and sit right next to them and, help them out. It's very hard for our parents and our students, to do what they're doing right now. And, hats off to them. God bless them, and this is why we love them.
Thank you, Noemi.
I don't have any questions at this point. The presentation was very thorough, and you provided with a lot of details. So I commend you for the work that you guys have been doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Yes, I want to thank the three teams. I was really impressed with the plans that each school has to reach out and engage the families. You ought to be commended. That's awesome. I just have one question for the middle school, Peter. Attendance is taken at every class, correct?
Yes.
During
Yes.
the course of a day?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me your best guesstimate on a given day? What's the percentage of kids that do not stay with the remote learning for the entire day?
Amanda?
So we have about 1 to 3% of our students on any given day that are missing between 3 to 4 classes out of 6.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. I was just curious what, they log on in the morning and then for some reason they miss the rest of the day. For Bob Keir, is that something that happens at the High School Learning Center?
Good, have I muted again? Occasionally, it depends on what might be happening within. Our attendance is taken every period, but there are different circumstances, and I'm hoping I'm answering your question, Pat, that students may not be there for the entire day. A lot of times they do a great job of letting staff know what circumstances might be preventing from doing that. So is that answering your question?
No, but on a given day, do you have any percentage as to how many students do not complete the day? I'm not asking for specifics.
I'm sorry. I wish I could. Part of the I think that one of the greatest things about HLC is we offer a flexible program for students who do have to work, and so schedules are very, very different. So I couldn't give you an exact percentage of that. It might be something that we can work on and get that information back to you. But I can have a student who has 2 classes needed to complete graduation. I can have a student who has 4 or 6. And, the nature of the work that we do at our school, sometimes those schedules just change. It could change 2 to 3 times within a semester. So I apologize. I don't have an exact percentage on that.
No, you're correct with the nature of the students that you're dealing with. This is probably a question for the traditional high school level. And I'll reserve that. All right, thank you. Thank you to the teams. It was wonderful.
Mayor Rivera?
No, I found the information informative and I'm all set.
Julio?
From my end, I have no questions. I commend the teams on their presentation. I think based on the circumstances, we are doing everything that can be done. And I really, I know that you guys have a hard job ahead of you, but it seems like it's finally into perspective. Kids are responding to the best that they can.
We did ask the executive director to
Thanks. Could I ask, please, if you're not speaking, if you could just mute? I'm getting some audio. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but that would be helpful. Thank you. Yeah, again, just thank you so much. Really appreciate. I think for all of you who are presenting tonight, I think, you know, just to be aware, what this does is it provides sort of a level of detail, and you know, this board deals with the policy side of things, the trends, sort of the themes, but to be able to hear from you the details of the day-to-day work, I think is really important for us. And so I just thank you for the time you've spent today, for preparing for this, but more importantly, for the work that you do every single day, you know, for our kids and families. So I want to get you all out of here so you can go and get ready for your day tomorrow. I do have a question. It's for the superintendent, actually, just so, you know, we've heard examples here of 3 schools that, you know, sound like they're doing a fabulous job of not only tracking information, but then the outreach, you know, and then as Jess said, like examples of folks prioritizing relationships and connecting with students and families. And so I guess from a district perspective, because the other thing is like everyone has their own flair. It's a little different, you know what I mean? And the good news is that, again, open architecture, everyone gets to design things a little differently, but I can see some core tenets and beliefs echoed here about relationships and, you know, care of students and, you know, focusing on assets and things like that. So I'm just wondering from a district perspective, you know, given that we're an open architecture district, and again, these 3 examples are rooted in some common themes, but all a little different. Like, how do you, superintendent, I guess, interact with the different schools and, you know, sort of get the information that we're getting tonight, but I know you get, you know, on a daily basis. So, and I guess the question I'm also asking is, like, how do you ensure this level of just detail and quality and effectiveness, you know, in the school, so that, you know, if you need to provide additional resources or support, you know, to other schools, you're able to do that?
Yes, you're right. So with open architecture, our school leaders and their teams have the flexibilities to design the systems that work specific for their communities. So tonight you saw 3 excellent examples. It's also true of our other schools. We highlighted these 3 today, but I can share with you many others that are very unique to the needs of their students, their staff, and their community. So as you know, I meet with principals both individually and then collectively, and they do a great job at letting me know, tell me what's working, tell me what needs my attention, how can I help? And our principals are strong advocates for their kids and staff. I can tell you, these principals on this call and all of them do a great job at letting me know, here's what I need, Cynthia. They also have direct line of communication with all of the central office leaders. And so whenever we can help them, that's what we do. So again, I think that we support them. They've been very clear with us that what's working for them in these nuanced systems that they have is what their teams have designed with them. And we think that's really important. And we're in very close communication with them, very close communication.
Great, thank you so much. So again, feel free to hang out. I would encourage you to, you know, use your time to, you know, for what you need to. But again, thank you so much. Just really appreciate all the school teams and the time that you spent with us today.
Mr. Rodriguez, is it okay if I make one quick shout out? And I don't want to speak for all the schools, but the stuff that we talked about today is really based on the amazing work of all of our staff. Our staff is relentless. I spoke about our advisories, and without them and their calls 5, 6, 7 times and trying to establish relationships and then letting us know when that's not going well, I just want to give a shout out to them. And I'm sure, you know, in other schools, it's very, very similar. It really is a collective effort of everyone within the school. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to mention that.
Great. No, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Bye, guys.
All right, Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you. So next, let's pull my agenda here. Next, we're going to have Mary Toomey, Assistant Superintendent for Student Supports, give us SPED update. Oh, sorry. I don't mean to skip here. Quick enrollment update and followed by the special education update. So Denise Snyder is up next.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Good to be with everyone again. Just a couple of brief slides to keep folks updated on where we are with enrollment. What you see in front of you are is a snapshot of the last 6 years of enrollment, grades pre-K to grade 13, which is a lot of our students who continue on in special education. I think last time we were together, you asked for it to be a little bit more comprehensive and stacked grade, year on top of year for the grades. You could see trends. I'm hoping this is in line with that request. And when we look at that, I've highlighted what was last year, this year, and the percent of change at the bottom. This pretty much reflects the presentation I gave when we were together in October, where the numbers for pre-K and K are so dramatic. The rest are slightly less dramatic with the exception of grade 9. These numbers are updated a little bit from that 1021 because even though this is the report that we used or is now filed with DESE, and my presentation to you last time was October 21st. These are October 1 numbers, but it takes weeks to get to the final October 1 number once we've cleaned all the data and erased duplicates, found where kids are in other districts, etc. So this is where we landed with our October 1 submission. As you can see, it is a little over 5% decrease from last year's numbers, but I also included previous years, so you can see that this is, that there's been a decrease the last couple of years, but this is a huge decrease, and it is largely related to the pandemic as families really are challenged by what to do with their children and the decisions that they have to make that are unique to every family circumstance. Now the 5.2 is disconcerting to me, probably is to you as well, but I want to say that this was October 1, and we did some more analysis of what's happened from October 1 to now, and that's here on this slide. So we have had from October 1 to yesterday, 416 enrollments. Those are students who are brand new to the district, as well as students who are returning to the district. So maybe they left to go somewhere else, in-state, out-of-state, out-of-country, and they've returned. With it, we've had 179 withdrawals. We have enrollments, re-enrollments, withdrawals happening every year, all the time. This isn't new news. The number's a little bit higher because, again, of the pandemic. I think people are in flux. So when we look, when we talk about the slide I just showed you where the October 1 enrollment said 12,842, our net increase of 237 really brings us to 13,079, which is a 3.5% decrease from last year, rather than the 5.2 that the October 1 numbers present. So wanted to let you know what has happened since that time. To that end, we can talk a little bit about analysis. Some of this will just become clearer and clearer as a few more months go by. But in general, we have said before, a lot of the change is showing up at pre-K and kindergarten, there are, I think, 250 to 275 fewer pre-K and kindergartens collectively. We know that has a lot to do with the decisions you have to make about starting a new school system, that system being remote, maybe already having something that you want to stay with, waiting to start your child, etc. The other grades, you know, there's a little bit of change back and forth, some higher, some lower. And again, some of that being about COVID, some of that being typical transitions that happen every year. And then, as we mentioned in October, our grade 9 has a big decrease. You know, when we looked at who's coming from 8th grade to 9th grade, there was a drop there, and we knew what it was what it was accounted for, which is 180 students going to the Greater Lawrence Tech and 30 going to parochial options. We will know more over the coming 2 months, as this is the time of year that we conduct, or all of us conduct, all school districts, what we would call a census, and we hear from each other if they have any of our children. So we're going to have a much clearer perspective on whether or not we've got a couple of kids who are enrolled in another school district, in another charter, in another parochial, something that we may have missed. So we're going to have even more complete data come late winter or early spring. And of course, I'm more than happy to come back at that time and keep giving you the presentations on what our enrollment looks like. And that is my quick update. Obviously, I'm really more than happy to take questions.
Thanks, Denise. I will start with Julia, but just before I do, I just want to just say a couple quick things. So one is that, you know, we had our state board meeting in November, and one of the things that was reported is that, you know, we're experiencing, at least as of that date, roughly a 37,000 student decrease in public schools in the Commonwealth from the year before. So, and when we looked at that data, it trended very closely, I think, to what we're seeing here, is the pre-K and K numbers are the ones that seem to be down the highest, and likely for the reasons that, you know, Denise, you've shared with us not only tonight, but in others as well. So just to know that, you know, it's a statewide issue as well. I am, you know, I feel better that, you know, since October 1st, the net 200 plus students is actually, you know, made that gap smaller. And I at least for one would be interested, you know, because I know the changes on a daily basis. Like, I like this table, and I like, you know, that really just the bottom row that would change, you know, if we provided sort of more like, you know, monthly. But I do like, you know, maybe monthly updates just on where things stand, and you don't have to go into a deep presentation, but just because of the information is changing so much. So so thank you for that. And yeah, I would love to see that, you know, moving forward. But okay, Julia, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Ventura. Denise, thank you for that presentation. The numbers are a little bit more encouraging than when we last met and discussed about, you know, the number of students that were not accounted for. Is there any, do you have any indication as to why is this a large number of students that went over to the VOC? Or is this normal for?
You know what, Julia, thank you for anticipating that. I have a request into our Power School folks to run some previous years so we can compare. So when I come back next month, I'm happy to include that as well.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial to all of us to understand why some of the students would go to the VOC rather than stay in the LPS school system.
Thank you, Julia, sure.
Yeah, and as far as the parochial schools, what parochial schools are these students going to? Since, as far as I know, we only have a couple of parochial schools in the city.
Right, and those would be them unless they're choosing to go to some surrounding ones, right? Parochial schools don't have the same residency requirements But again, this winter census will give us some additional data on where our kids are.
So hopefully the report we get in January will have a lot more information. But yes, please, Denise, if you can share that with us, that information in terms of these students going to the VOC and going to the parochial schools, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Ventura.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mayor Rivera?
I'm all set as well.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, just one quick question, Denise. Do you attribute this increase in enrollment maybe due to the policy we established last month as far as a temporary permission for families that are outside Lawrence to participate in the remote learning?
I actually do not. You have to have been enrolled. I mean, you have to be a Lawrence Public School student before you can sign an agreement, and you have to prove your residency here just as you normally would. In fact, you know, as a result of that agreement, we did have a couple of parents in the DR who obviously were talking to other people whose kids are from Lawrence doing their work. And so then they tried to register with us, but they didn't have residency. And we said, you can't do that. So, you know, obviously there's an interest, but no, I think honestly, we always have, you know, fluctuation, and B, I think people may, it's just a hypothesis. People may have been looking for a better answer and then finding out that one doesn't exist, because a large part of these enrollments are re-enrollments.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Yep. All right, Noemi?
I just want to say a comment, and that is that I really like the job that was done displaying the data. It's very easy to digest, and it's one of those things that you don't need to spend too much time to determine what are the changes. So there is always elegance in simplicity. So I really commend you for that work, and I'm looking forward to continue to seeing data presented in that way.
Thanks, Noemi.
Jess? I think that was a no. Okay.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm also, isn't it crazy though, like the world we're in, where like, why couldn't the kid from the DR, like, who lives there, like, participate? Anyway, I'm not suggesting that, but it's just a new world we're in, you know, where boundaries and borders and learning, like, is changing almost every day. But Denise, thank you. Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Denise. Okay, next, Mary is going to give us a special education update.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. It's a pleasure to be with all of you again this evening to provide you with a special education update, specifically as it relates to remote learning and what we've been doing. Just a little reminder of where we've been at the beginning of last school year. You'll recall that we initiated a dramatic redesign of the Office of Student Support Services, including reorganizing the special education department along with other student support departments, including strengthening the Department of Health Services, assessment and accountability. We heard from Kristen Sullivan when we were with you the last time. And all of that allowed us to really think about special education in some new ways. We divided the district into 4 geographic zones by feeder pattern schools, each with about 8 or 9 schools included there. And each one of those zones is now led by a talented and experienced special education director. And as a result, we have made some great strides in our efforts to improve communication, outreach, and compliance. I want to just give a shout out and a big thank you to Marlena Yasalgas, Sean Reardon, Carol Keenan, and James Parker. We heard from the attendance teams tonight that our work is really focused on relationships It's something that, it's been a commitment of mine for many, many years as I was a principal in Lawrence, and the power of getting to know children and families well enough to make a difference. And in the world of special education, it could not be more important. And so I'm really happy to be sharing some of our updates with you. Now, we know that for some of the families of students with disabilities, these are very challenging times. We know that all of the things that we've been talking about tonight are just become even more difficult when you have a child with a disability. Yet we are working hard with all of our folks to be sure that we're providing the supports necessary and working to get some of our kids back into learning environments in school as soon as we can. So I want to talk to you a little bit about many of those things, and I want to share with you some visuals of what's been going on, so you can see, starting with this cover photograph here, of how we're using district-provided iPads and helping families use Cheerios as snack breaks, and making sure that our staff and our teachers are providing materials at home for kids that need manipulatives, paper, pencil, etc. So we'll see a little bit of that tonight. So those images, as I said, will hopefully make your heart smile as they do mine. It's really incredible to see a lot of the great work that is going on in spite of sort of these barriers that have presented themselves as a result of remote learning. And I need to shout out to all of our dedicated and committed teachers, our related service providers who provide remote speech and occupational therapy and even physical therapy. We have seen videos that parents send us of students taking their first steps because of the great programs that our physical therapists have provided to the families for daily practice, our support staff members who are all ensuring the engagement of specialized instruction. These are the sort of 11 areas I'm going to touch on tonight. I'll be happy to go back and take any questions to any of this, but I wanted to sort of give you a well-rounded update as to what we've been talking about, starting with looking at some of what's happening. And here's a practical academics class, which is one of our substantially separate programs at the high school in the upper school academy. And they have career day every Friday. And you might recognize one of those celebrities who made a stop into the Zoom class with all of these folks. Attendance was great in this group. So the mayor, Dan Rivera, along with our police chief, Chief Basque, made a visit with these students, and they got to think about what they might want to have as careers and think about where they're going. So this teacher is doing that every Friday, Allison Allen, and we wanted to give her a shout out. We showed you this slide back at the beginning of August when we were just rolling out our learning plan for what this year would look like. And back at the beginning of August, the governor came out with this color-coded metric. And I just wanted to show you that the day before we shared this with you, we actually had a little bullet in there because the governor announced that Lawrence rates were decreasing. And we got excited and we thought, well, maybe we were going to be able to share and start the year with a hybrid plan of bringing our kids back. And at that time, out of this metric that goes from 0 to 8 cases per 100,000, Lawrence was at 7.8. And then one day later, we learned that we had entered that red zone, and we reorganized our recommendation to you all and talked about having to start the year with a remote plan. And even during that, we always had in our plan the idea that we needed to get our high needs kids back, especially our kids who would have disabilities, significant disabilities, back in in-person learning as soon as possible. We tried for an October 19th date. We tried again for a November 30th date. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the planning that's going on this week and where we think we are with that. But the metric has been revised, as you all know. Lawrence has a population just over 80,000, and now they're looking at these color metrics a little differently because they're giving some significance toward the population of the district, what else is included in their community, and looking at the positivity rate. We had the highest positivity rate that we've had yet on the latest weekly count, 14.7. So, you know, we're discouraged about that, and we're hoping that we're going to plateau at some point. There's a slight bit of good news in the last measure that was published here. Comes out every Thursday. This is the December 1st for the last 14 days. And you can see that the average daily rate per 100,000 was 107.3. Who would have thought back in the day when we were looking at a metric of 8.3 and being very worried that we would ever see a number as high as 107. But you can see right next door to that, that is actually a relative change that's lower for this 14-day period. And I just picked a few dates here to show you from the first day of school, which was September 16th, then in the middle of November, the end of November, and then this slight decrease from 113 to 107. Could that be signs of a slight plateau for our city? Let's keep our fingers crossed, and let's encourage everyone to do their part and you know, follow all of the suggested protocols, because we really do want to get our kids back in school. Here's one of our occupational therapists who is providing one-to-one support for our kids during remote instruction. And you can see the little guy up there with his own whiteboard, because we're providing all of the materials that they need at home. And Melissa Rao helping to form letters using one of our curriculums called Printing Handwriting Without Tears, and all of the information. This is a screenshot from a video, and in the video, the mother is actually supporting, and she is parroting what the occupational therapist is saying. There's certain language that we do when we're teaching, you know, big line down, little line across, and so, you know, they learn all of the strokes to sort of help kids that are having some fine motor issues. So this was a great photo. I wanted you to see that. So as I told you, we're still planning. We never stop planning for the return of in-person students. It's just being pushed and pushed and pushed. And so given the increased rates of community spread, we have to be so careful. And we want to think about doing this in a very controlled, very limited way, so that we can get at least a small group of high need students back into school, with a target date right now of January 19th. And a lot of that is going to depend on what happens in the next month. But we are still planning, meeting with principals, and we think that we're on the right track here. And everything that we're hearing on the news is looking positive for, you know, late winter and early spring, and getting on the other side of this COVID pandemic. We sent a survey to our teachers and our support staff, just seeking to know if they would be willing to come in and work with our high needs kids. We think that they're going to need some additional training and professional development, and you know, this will be something that they will have to do, and potentially work with remote children and children who are in person. So we did offer a small stipend for that as well. And we were very, very pleased to receive 259 interest surveys. And that began for us the process of matching the staff members who are volunteering with groups of high needs kids. And we prioritized special education children with significant disabilities. So those in our district-wide programs who are essentially substantially separate, who are having the most difficulty maintaining and sustaining screen time. And it really depends on family members, caretakers, in order to support screen time for many students who have those disabilities. And we know when we made the calls early in September, asking if they wanted those children, their children, to return, about 50% said yes. About half said we want to keep our kids remote. We're going to start the call project again to those selected groups where we have a match. And we anticipate that we will have a higher response rate this time, because the families and the students are really fatiguing with the screen time and not having the structure. And so we are anticipating that, we may get those groups back. We want our kids to come back. The regular schedule that we're using now is 8 to 1:30, and we will invite them to come back daily, Monday through Friday, providing transportation. And we're anticipating offering these programs at several complexes to start, but in very small numbers, with very small numbers of staff. And so those are the principals that we've been talking to in the past couple of days. We want to also, with our Director of Health Services, Nancy Walsh, we're considering enhanced safety protocols, including temperature checks, additional PPE such as face masks, goggles, etc. We're also been asked by DESE to be part of the pilot for the Binax Now rapid antigen test that we could give to any staff member or student who is symptomatic. And our nurses are being trained at the moment on how to do that. And then we're thinking that additional groups of high needs learners will be invited back once our first group of learners have settled in. We may include some English language learners who are newcomers in our first phase. We are hoping for a second phase to start on or about February 1st, and then a third phase that would include pre-K, kindergarten, other high needs kids on or about March 1st. So again, very controlled, very small, in order to be successful and maintaining. That's our goal here. These are the high needs groups that we showed you before. There's about 3,000 students that are in these groups, about 20% of our enrollment, but the rolling invitations match to the educator availability. Again, we'll start with the district-wide SPED programs that you see there, and then the School for Exceptional Studies, and the annex, our alternative schools, our therapeutic day alternative schools, and then our newcomer English learners. So that's where we'll start, and then hopefully get to these other groups as soon as we can, and we have some sustainability of success moving into that. Now, I wanted to show you that while the enrollment, Denise has been sharing with you that our enrollment has dipped this year over last year, the total number of students that we have on IEPs is increased by about 50 students. So, students with needs are still coming to us, and we're still identifying them. And I also wanted to show you how the breakout of primary disability is looking, not much different from where we were before, with the exception of the communication disability has kind of switched places with students who are considered developmentally delayed. Autism being the second highest primary disability. That's a big change from about 4 or 5 years ago. So our kids on the spectrum, that number of kids and the number of programs and specialists that we have working with them and their families has increased. And we've increased our FTEs significantly. Superintendent Paris has been extremely interested in making sure that we have a cadre of board certified behavior analysts to help our kids really to succeed and to learn the skills that they need for communication and being successful. We've increased the FTEs almost across the board for speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists. We added a physical therapist this year as well. So wanted you to see that data and the work that we've been doing there. The continuum of service has been very important. The last couple of years, we have really emphasized our commitment to inclusion. You can see there that just the full inclusion alone, the vast majority of our students on an IEP, about 2,500 kiddos, the vast majority of them are fully included. And so they're zooming in and their support is being pushed in with their typical classroom teacher, their general ed teacher, they're with their gen ed peers, and it's going really well. We've had a lot of professional development about co-teaching and inclusion. We have another group of students in partial inclusion, and then we do have that group of district-wide programs numbering about 285 students, and then you can see how that closer look at the substantially separate programs. We call the Independent Learning Program, the ILP, the program that is supporting students on the spectrum so students who do have autism. Now, many of those students are in inclusion or partial inclusion, but these 73 are considered substantially separate. We have a Practical Academics 1 and then a Practical Academics 2. These are students who are diagnosed with neurological or significant cognitive delays. Our medically sensitive and support, medical support and sensitivity, I think I got that backwards. We have 4 classrooms, 4 groups of these students who require even nurses, some of them, in their classrooms to be with them during the day. And that is continuing. And we have 23 students currently who have very challenging medical needs and need some very significant support and very skilled teachers, paraprofessionals, and as I said, nursing support. And then we have our post-grad students. You heard a little bit about kids who stay with us beyond 12th grade, 18 to 22 years old. We keep them and they do an excellent job. You saw some of their photographs earlier. Our therapeutic day schools, the SES Annex, School for Exceptional Studies at the Annex, has about 32 students. Students, again, on the spectrum, but more significantly involved. And those students are in grades 1 through 8. We have our main campus that for this year we moved from the North Common site over to St. Mary's, the Notre Dame building. Lawrence Public Schools took that this year. And we have the elementary and middle school students, and the administration and teachers there are hoping to get back in January with as many of those students as possible. They have an elementary middle population, and then they have a high school population as well. We're also supporting about 99 students. That's down a little bit from last year in out-of-district placements, but just recently we have determined that we have about 3 more students that for reasons that they have not been able to access what they need in this remote environment, will be going to out-of-district placements as well. So, all of these kids are, again, it's about the relationship. It's also about the individual education plan, looking at every child as an individual, looking at their needs, not necessarily fitting any particular child into one of these programs, but finding what the needs of the child are and then creating the program for what the child needs and bringing the services to the child. That's really the goal of special education and why it's so individualized. So here's one of those ILP classrooms at South Lawrence East Elementary, and the special education teacher who makes sure that the student has their work and their packets at home. Cheryl Travers over on the right-hand side is one of our teachers at the Breed, working with young kids. Our teachers have been fantastic, sending home manipulatives. You can see another example of a district-provided iPad. Our kids have Chromebooks. They have their whiteboards. They have markers. They have everything that they need in order to participate as fully as possible in their classes with their teachers and, resemble what the school day would look like. Next, I wanted to share a really large project with you. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and Russell Johnston in particular, has been doing just an amazing job, Associate Commissioner, and heads up the special education team at the department. He has been meeting every other week with the special education directors, so all 4 of our directors, and I sit in on those meetings as well, and just has been so encouraging, providing us with resources, supports, legal notes, anything that he can do to help us with the work that we do. A lot of the work of special education is compliance driven, and that's been challenging in these times of remote learning. And so when we closed in March, one of the things that they asked us to do was to create a remote learning plan. It was a short version of what was happening at a time when attendance wasn't being counted. Our teachers were online from 9 to noon, as you might remember, at the beginning of the closure period in March when everything was shut down. And then when school started up again, Russell and his team asked the districts to think about writing much more detailed plans called COVID-19 Special Education Learning Plans, not to replace the IEP. The IEP is a legal document. It's a signed legal document. We're responsible for every service that is written on the service delivery grid. The parent has agreed to it. The school, the team has agreed to it. Goes through a team process. But this plan, this learning plan, is just to be sure that the parent has had a chance to meet with the teacher and to develop how the services will look different in a remote environment. And so that's what this plan was meant to do. So think about the volume of the number of kids I told you about that we have, 2,500 about kids on IEPs. And so think about what our teachers and our related service providers had to do. We were able to share what we refer to as CSELPs because the title of this plan is very long. The CSELPs were shared with our families on or about October 16th. Many of them had to be translated before they could be shared. And the really nice thing about this plan versus the one we did in the spring is it includes the requirement for the special education teacher to actually have a discussion with the parent and to enter the date that either a phone conversation or a Zoom call was done so that the parent could weigh in on the provision of services and how they would be provided differently. And so you can see in this example that I'm showing you that the teacher has done a nice job of indicating when that happened and when the meeting was held. So it's all about communication, collaboration, ensuring that the parent is part of the process of what's going on here. The second part of the CSELP is about the actual learning model and the services that will happen. So it talks about the specialized services, that's what we do in special education, and how that will happen, whether that will be over Zoom, gives the parent that information so that they can keep this if they choose to print it in a good place. And the related service providers in terms of how they will work, what they can expect in terms of assignments and visuals. And this one is just very, very well done, as most of them were. The third area talks about what the parent can expect from the teacher, even to the extent of offering to be available after hours, as in this case, and what the teachers and that team plans to do to be sure that this child's needs are met according to the IEP and according to how we'll be providing the services differently. And in letter D here, it talks about as a partner in the learning for this child, what can the parent also do? Gives the parent great suggestions for what they can do to be a partner in this process, because we really do depend on the caretaker, the parent, and the family to help us with the work here. The next section includes all the contact information for the educators that will be working with the student on the plan. And then the last part of the plan is the schedule. It is the what, when, and how of things that are going to be offered. And it gets down to the nitty-gritty of the actual schedule period by period. And I didn't screenshot the last page here, but it goes down until the end of the day. And you can see that for this child, they are working with just the same Zoom meeting and the same password across the board so that they can go in and out between, I know the mayor loves these words, synchronous and asynchronous learning. We like to talk about it as just direct and indirect instruction that's going on, all helpful, all meaningful, all of it counts. And the teachers are pushing in to all of these so that the parent has the ease of just knowing that that's my one that I need to worry about. It's the same meeting, it's the same password for everything during the day. So this is very, very well done. Another Lawrence High School teacher in practical academics, Wanda Navarro, is using the whiteboard feature here of Zoom. And then you can see that the students are holding up their own whiteboards and they're doing area and perimeter in a real life example of a bakery. So I thought this was cool. Wanda's up there in the corner and her students are showing up, holding up their whiteboards. And so they have the tools that they need at home and just very, very proud of their work on this real life problem solving. So great work there. Last time we met with you, Kristen did a wonderful presentation, shared with you our assessment goals, and we talked a lot about using measures of academic progress, what we call MAP. We've increased our footprint with many more schools using MAP this year. And I know Pat asked for some high-level data, and we wanted to just give you just a snapshot. Now, the best use of MAP is not for summative data. The best use is to use it as a formative assessment that helps teachers and informs them about where the student is at the time so that we can make instructional plans to close achievement gaps. So that's especially important for students with disabilities. It's important for all students. But the wonderful thing that we found that you can see on this grid from looking at 2017 up to fall of 2020, there was not a significant difference in the overall aggregate, 50th percentile being the average. And so these scores are in the low average range overall for every student. This is just looking at an average. So it doesn't tell you much because you want to look at individual scores. But the good news is from fall 19 to fall 20, we're holding our own in the low average range overall in math and reading. Slightly dip in science, but we'll take that given where we are. And you'll notice that we did increase the numbers of students sitting for the fall exam because we did increase it at schools. That's important. But here's something that I was really excited about. So even though the student growth percentile, so a different measure, we were looking at achievement in the blue chart, but when we look at the student growth percentile, which is really what we want to focus on when we're talking about closing gaps, the subgroups of students with disabilities and students without disabilities, the non-students with disabilities, were not significantly different for subject areas, but we had larger increases in growth for students with disabilities than for non-students with disabilities. And so then you would start asking questions like, why do you think that happened between fall 19 and fall 20? Like, why did we see larger increases than we've seen in the past for that particular group? And so we can start talking about those kids we're getting and have been receiving more targeted support through individualized supports, small group, a lot of them one-on-one with a teacher and a support staff member pushing in and just giving them, more opportunity than, perhaps they were getting before. And so all of that is good news. It's very high level. The other thing that I promised to share with you, because we were so excited to talk about the interactive student profile report, and this is just a screenshot, so I can't play with the buttons and show you how interactive it is, but it is a student who has an IEP. It's a 7th grade student, and I won't give you too much more identifying information, but I just wanted you to see some wonderful things. Our ETFs are using these interactive reports when they have an IEP meeting. Our teachers are sharing this with parents when they have meetings with them as well. And it tells the teacher and the parent what the student is ready for in terms of instruction. We're looking at reading at the moment, so that's the green bar that's open right there. And it also tells the teacher what the student could benefit from. And then they can drill down in all the instructional areas that you see in the middle focus here. And they can think about, well, if I go down to the bottom, the highest score, that 221, was in key ideas and details of informational text. And where we might have to do more work is around language, craft, and structure. Another area that is really exciting is to see the growth and achievement measures. And again, these are both interactive that we can drill in when this is a live report. But this student's growth, and I told you again that 50 is the average, 50th percentile, just like a bell curve. This student's growth from the last time they took the MAP assessment is in the 90th percentile, meaning that this student's growth was better than 90% of the students who took this test for the same age and same grade across the country. And the achievement also above the mean at the 64th percentile. So very encouraging. And because Lawrence participated in the norming study for Next Generation MCAS in 2017, along with tens of thousands of other Massachusetts students, we can be confident that the projection here for how this student would do on the MCAS if we were going to give it today, is pretty accurate. And it tells us in this projection that if we gave MCAS today, this student would be meeting expectations based on that norming study. And then the other part of this report, the part that's most exciting for families to see and for us to review, we first get a Lexile level, which teachers like to have because that helps them decide where students are reading at and where they should be introducing new levels of text. And then you have this great visual graph that I love that shows the trajectory of any time that this student took a math exam, any time that they were in the Lawrence Public Schools, even if they changed schools. So in 1819, when this student was in 5th grade, the student took this reading test twice, once in the fall, once in the spring. And you can see that the trajectory line there dips significantly. We don't know why. I have a theory that this was before this student may have been evaluated, and maybe the IEP came after this happened. I'm not sure. I didn't look that up. But what happened next is really exciting. In the 6th grade, taking this in the fall, between leaving 5th grade and then getting to 6th grade, the student made a nice improvement. So you see the trajectory going in the right direction, leaving the very low range and going up into the next quintile. And then fall 1920, so that was fall a year ago. Then we had COVID. Now we're back fall of 2021. The student takes the exam again, and look where we are. And so again, this is a student on an IEP who's now in the average range, and very, very exciting in terms of how this test can help the teacher decide what are the next steps for the student and how we can do it. So there is a parent report that looks very similar that we like to print for parents as well, but you can see how this can be very engaging. And if it was the live interactive report at an IEP meeting, the ETF would be able to open many more of these areas and show the parents some more information. So this is very, very helpful. We're using it now more than ever because our IEP meetings are remote, as we know. We're doing remote reevaluations, 3-year reevaluations, and we want to show growth. We want to show progress of our students. And so this is helping our psychologists and our evaluation team facilitators and our families to get the information that they need. This is one of our students who has a visual impairment, and we made sure he has an abacus at home and a keyboard that he's practicing some special keyboarding tasks on. One of our paras also has been converting lots of reading material to Braille and delivering it to our visually impaired students to their homes so that they are not losing out and not having their Braille services that they need at home. And so I thought these were great photos also. So happy that we got to share all these photos. Another thing that we decided to do this fall was to create a series of virtual parent workshops. And they were all planned and led by related service providers, counselors, psychologists, evaluation team leaders. And it was a great success. We did have over 180 parents register. They didn't all make it to the sessions, but it was, drop in. We did them twice, every Thursday, once in the afternoon, once at 6 o'clock. The last one is tomorrow, and this one is really exciting. I think a lot of families would be interested in this one. Screen-free sensory breaks during remote learning. I think that we could all use some screen-free sensory breaks. I know that I go from meeting to meeting all day long, and so I may attend this one just to get some tips for myself. But feel free to drop in. If you can email me or email any member of the team if you don't have the registration link, and we will get it to you. This is also a cute photo of some students at the Rollins. Teacher did a read aloud of a book called The Window, and then parents and children had an opportunity to look out their window and then practice, retelling and talking about what they see and what they notice. And so it's just a great other photo of how we're using learning at home and relating that to literature and how that's happening. So big shout out to all the families and everybody who's helping with that. This is the postgraduate program that we told you about, our 18 to 22-year-olds. We have 2 teachers featured here and 1 paraprofessional. One teacher focuses on the vocational aspects of what our kids need in the postgrad program, and another teacher focuses on the functional academics for the program. And again, this is a screenshot from a video, and this lesson was about school and work attendance, and there were scenarios in the PowerPoint, and the children had to decide, the students had to decide whether it would be acceptable or unacceptable to oversleep, or decide that you wanted to play video games instead of going to school or going to work. And they did a great job with it. And you can see, again, very positive attendance from this group of students. So they're doing a wonderful job getting the students in every single day. It was a great lesson. So evaluations, everything paused on March 13th. And evaluations are a big part of special education compliance. The initial evaluation, so for students that we have not evaluated before, there's a suspicion of a disability, but it hasn't been identified. We really feel like we need to complete those in person. A lot of what the evaluators do has to do with observation, back and forth between the evaluator and the student. And so we were getting backed up, and in the summer, we launched an in-person evaluation project by appointment. Did it at South Lawrence East and Lawrence High School. We were able to get through 30 evals in 5 weeks, so that was great. And then we started again in the fall at 5 different sites. We got 38 evals finished in 2 weeks, and then we had another pause on staff being in person at the school. Just this week on Monday, we started evaluation teams again, in-person evaluation teams, IPETs, we're calling them, for a phase 2 at South Lawrence East and the Weatherby. And those will be ongoing so that we can hopefully get caught up with our initial evaluations. And they keep coming. I mean, they don't stop. So anytime that a parent feels that they would like their child evaluated, or the school's response to instruction and intervention team submits a request for a referral, then that goes on the list of getting consent from the parents and then completing the initial. And that might include a psychologist, as you see Liz Bain in this photograph here from the summer. It may include a speech eval if that's been requested, or occupational therapy, or a counseling eval. It all depends. So putting those people together in a way that allows them to do sort of a staggered evaluation. So we bring one child in at a time and they go through the different evaluators. That's what we've created. And so that's starting now. And we're hopeful that we're going to get through those initial evaluations very quickly. They are by appointment, as I said. We're using enhanced PPE, including those sneeze guards that our facilities department made especially for this purpose. And we're really appreciative of having that plexiglass available for all of our evaluators to use. We also purchased individual materials pouches so that the kids who come in for their evals, they have their own crayon set, their own pencils, a little incentive pack of stickers. They take that home with them, so there's no sharing of materials. So we're keeping things as safe as possible for everybody that comes in. Some more showing off our work. You can see a grade 1 teacher from Prest Elementary work up at the top there, and one of our certified occupational therapy assistants who works at the Rollins, Lauren, works with pre-K and K. Mills Home Packets Weekly is just a superstar, and these are 2 of her students in the 2 bottom pictures that you're looking at here, and what she is observing them doing when they're in her groups daily, and she's pushing into their classrooms. So it's just really great to see. The next project, our 3-year reevaluations were paused as well. And we worked with the department. As I said, Russell's been providing us with lots of resources and training. We trained up our psychologists and our related service providers to begin doing these evaluations remotely. And some of the publishers, Pearson, and some of the other publishers that do publish the tests that we use when we evaluate, created some criteria and suggestions for how we could use those tests in a remote situation. We already know these students, a 3-year reevaluation. We have history. We can go back and look at the records. We can see how the child has been doing with us for the last 3 years. So it's not starting from the beginning. And so we got an ambitious project going on beginning of October, about the middle of October. And the goal was we were behind about 300 student reevals, a little more than 300. And so we put a very aggressive all hands on deck project together. And to date, these are the numbers. We've completed close to 500 evaluations in just a few weeks. And we're about 71% complete at this time. And so very, very proud of everybody. But these guys are just, they're doing such amazing work, and they deserve just so much credit for what they're doing every single day for our kids, so that they can be sure to have all of the services that they need. I thought this was a great photo. Rollins School still creating bulletin boards and sharing them, and getting the parents' voices as well as the kids. This was a lesson about the book Alma, and how Alma was named, and then asking parents, why, what caused you to choose your child's name. And then the teacher wrote up a little piece about how each child's name was chosen, and then created this bulletin board that she could then share on Zoom with all of her families. And I'm sure that bulletin board made everybody very, very happy. So thank you to Ida and all the folks there. We have another team, early intervention. If you didn't know, referrals start for special education at age 2 years, 9 months. The early intervention providers actually start working with some kids at birth. And so when those kids reach age 2 years, 9 months, they may be referred to their local public school system. And eligible pre-K students enroll at age 3. Because this team works as an arena, meaning that they all observe the child at the same time, so it could be a psychologist, an occupational therapist, an OT, and because they work as an arena team and they do it at once, and the parent is used to coming into the school one time to have the evaluation, this team in March, they didn't miss a beat. They said, we can do this. We can do these screenings virtually. We can do them remotely. They started in March. They continued through the summer, the 5 weeks of July when we had ESY. They continued. We've done 63 of these remote arena evals and IEP meetings since we started school this year, and this team is not behind at all. So, it's really successful. Really great. This is one of those little guys who's being observed. You can see the team members on the right, and the parent, and they'll ask questions. They will ask questions of the parent who attends also, and then they give some simple prompts of can you make the car go, and different things like that. So shout out to that team and all of the great work that they do. One of the big lessons that we learned that I think we may continue is IEP meetings. They do very well remotely. Parents don't have to, leave work or drive to the school. Related service providers who are in multiple schools can Zoom in. We had proactively ordered Zoom licenses for our ETFs at the beginning of last year, not knowing anything like this was going to come. And for this reason, so for folks who couldn't get to a meeting, Zoom them in. Now, I'll be honest enough to tell you that not many of our ETFs really practiced with Zoom until it became necessary, but boy, they know how to use it now. And you can see the screenshot here of one of our ETFs at the high school, and parent and the student, as well as a couple of other team members there who are part of this meeting. And our ETFs are using Zoom visuals to show progress, to show evaluations. And we have completed, since the start of school, over 750 remote IEP meetings. And then there's a lot that goes into writing the IEP and all of that, but everyone is to be commended for the great work that they are doing here. Here's a snapshot I wanted to take for you because, you know, you don't always get to hear about the great work that's going on. For the 1 week, 5-day period between the 16th of November and the 20th, we're documenting all of our session delivery. We need to do that because it is a compliance issue. And we know that, you know, we'll be pushed for compensatory service if we don't provide it. And it's not always easy because of the fatigue and kids are not always available. But you can see here the number of sessions completed, the average number of sessions per related service provider in each one of these discipline areas, and over 1,400 sessions completed for that 1 week alone. Close to 70% of all of the sessions that are outlined on our IEPs were completed that week. It's been growing since the beginning of the year because our related service providers are getting more comfortable and more savvy about creative ways to engage kids in the therapy. I had one of our related service providers tell me that the student was just very fearful of seeing her face close up, but really liked a particular cartoon character. And she found a way to make a cutout of that character to go over her face. And now the child attends every session. So, you know, they're doing whatever they can to sort of meet the child where he or she is and to get the therapies in and to make sure that our kids are progressing. And I needed to end the presentation with this guy because how could you not smile looking at this great photograph? How proud is he of doing that work? We're so proud of all of our teachers, our support staff, our related service providers, and huge gratitude and shout out to our families for all of your help. We know this isn't perfect. You know, it's not where any of us want to be. And we're hopefully going to get some of our kids in very soon, and then more and more as the spring comes back to us and we all get around this. But everyone is working hard, deserves a lot of credit, and the kids and parents are doing a great job. So thank you. Happy to take some questions.
Mary, thank you so much just for the information. And I guess what I'll say to board members is, I mean, obviously there's a lot of information that was presented. I'm happy to, with some of the items that may not be as time sensitive, I'm happy to schedule time at our January meeting to return to this and be able to go deeper, you know, into some of the topics, but just really thorough, comprehensive. I mean, there's so much I feel like right now that, you know, where we could go, but I will go one round of board members if there's anything about the presentation, again, that you feel is time sensitive that you want to address tonight. If not, I'll make sure we put this on the agenda for January to follow up. So Jess, I'll start with you.
I mean, I feel like I have a ton of questions, but really in the interest of time, I feel like if we can carve out a chunk of time at the January board meeting, that would be better. Like my head feels a little bit like it's going to explode right now, but I totally appreciate all of this information. I feel like the one thing that I just want to understand more, and maybe we could talk about it a little more in January, is, you know, like, it's like, I feel like you did sort of address this in terms of like us understanding everything that goes into the IEP meetings and all the different kinds of contact you're having with parents and the supports that students are getting and so on. And I guess, you know, my one like other thing is just that I don't know that this is a problem we can solve right away, but I just know that, you know, there's this unavoidable aspect of the situation, right? Which is just that the parents are home with the kids and the parents are not special education teachers. And, you know, and so the situation, like from the get, is just not ideal in that way. And I know that there are parents who are, you know, just going a little bit crazy with it. And, you know, so it's more like, what are we doing, or what can we maybe learn from any other districts? Not that anyone else has the answer to this either, in terms of how we can support those parents on the ground in their houses, while we still have to be remote because of the situation you so accurately described in terms of our community spread stats. And I know that that's just harder because it's not like we can even send people to the house so much, right? Because we can't do that either. But that's just sort of the concern I have, is that so many of these parents are under enormous stress because of this. And I completely say that's not at all a criticism of our approach at all, right? I think that there's a ton that we're clearly doing. It's just a concern that I need to express so that we can think about if there is anything we can do to help folks through this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we think about it and we're working on it every day. And so this mission to get some kids back in school so that the structure is there and we can alleviate that for parents. The principals were great these last couple of days in their individual meetings, really prioritizing those kids that they're most worried about, that they feel are having the most difficult time. And so they've been able to really kind of prioritize what that might look like for a very controlled, very small, but very initial start at getting kids back in school. We're really committed to it.
That's great. And I guess I was also just wondering, because I don't, if you did put a number on this, just forgive me for not catching it, but in us asking for volunteers first from teachers who are willing to go back, what's the kind of response rate that we're getting?
Yeah, 259 interest surveys.
Good.
Yeah, I think
Great.
that we exceeded what our expectations were. We won't use them all. But, at least initially we have a nice group to choose from. And yeah, our staff, they're just incredibly committed and, ready to join in this mission. So we're very pleased.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
thank you.
Normie?
Yes, so that was a fantastic presentation. Yes, there was a lot of information. I really like the bulletins and the picture of the kids looking through the window, and the last picture, they just capture my heart. In terms of what I would like to see on a subsequent meeting, because I agree with Jess, we should have a little bit more time to ask more in-depth questions. I would like to know more about what is the progress of the kids this year compared to last year, because as we are worried about all the things that we're doing, we might be surprised that they might not be as behind as we might think of. We don't know. I mean, we do, I know you guys are doing tremendous work working with the kids and so forth, and I think that for the board it would be useful for them to see the progress, what in terms of then looking at the learning outcomes. Are there learning outcomes that are more challenging for the kids to comprehend or to master because of the conditions that we are right now? So I would like to see that type of data.
Mm-hmm.
That's my comment and my question for later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Normie. Pat?
Yes, I agree. We need more time to ask more in-depth questions, but a couple of things need to be said. First of all, Mary, I'd like to commend you on the reorganization of the special ed department. Turned it upside down in such a good way.
Thank you.
You and I lived through many program reviews where the special ed department was, criticized for many reasons. And I think you're on track to bring us back to a great, something very interesting that you said. The students with disabilities were making significant gains because of the targeted groups. And I just wonder if the SOA money becomes available and we're able to provide more targeted groups to more students, how these scores will change in the future. I think that's the key
I'm so
to
happy
it.
that you said that, because everybody on my team knows I am waiting for those SOA funds. We have a wonderful, wonderful plan. And so we're really excited about what we're going to be able to do, once we start looking specifically at that additional support for students with disabilities and English learners. That's what that plan was designed to do. And I think we're really proud of the comprehensive nature of the plan that we wrote. And we hope that Jesse agrees when they start reading the plans. We got a reminder that plans are due in January, and ours is already submitted, thanks to all of you. So we're really excited about that. Thanks for bringing it up, Pat.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. And Mary, please commend your staff. I think this was wonderful. Thank
Can't do it without them. We have an amazing team, and they're doing such tremendous work every single day. Thank you so much for that.
Mayor Rivera?
I agree with Jess. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in that slide, but I think I'm just gonna keep my powder dry on it. And thanks for the great effort.
Welcome.
Sounds good. Julio?
My comment is just to commend the staff for the work that you guys put in. And it seems like with every little thing that is happening and all the setbacks that you've been faced with, a lot is being accomplished at the same time. And I think the whole LPS community needs to be commended, because it seems like we're moving in the right direction. And as far as, this COVID-19 issue and the remote learning, as this continues to go on, I think we just have a better process in place, and people are going to realize that this is here for the long haul, and that we're going to work together and we're going to come through. And the kids are finally going to realize there's no other way around this, and we need to get back on track and get to do what we need to do. So thank you so much. It's a lot of information, and I think, like Jess and Dan said, it's something that is a continuation of a discussion that is going to continue on. But I thank you for all that information, Mary, and everybody else.
Thank you for that.
Great, thank you. And again, I just echo a lot of that, and it really is a continuation from our last board meeting to this one, and the through line, and just centering that this is the heart of the work, and for us to make sure that we're centering this every meeting, and we'll take today as the presentation of a lot of content, and next meeting where we can go deeper into it. I also just wanted to echo and just appreciation for the educators that are in a position that they can come in this proposed plan to support high need students. I mean, I think everything we hear is we all know we're doing the best we can, and I know our educators are doing a fabulous job, but that the in-person, is critical probably for all students, but there's some groups for whom I think it's even more critical. And in the plan that you all about, laid out today, accounts for that, continues to persevere to try to make sure that our most vulnerable students are getting access to in-person learning. And I just want to underscore, I like the approach of, having staff who are in a position to be able to come in person, to raise their hands. And I appreciate, the stipend and recognition that there will be more time needed to plan just for this pretty unique situation. So all around, I think it's a good plan. I look forward to just getting updates, on your decisions in terms of the rollout of the plan, because I know that, some of the milestones are in January, and, we'll be meeting again second week of January. But yeah, appreciated that plan. And I'll just sort of highlight that, and we'll table the rest of my questions for our next meeting. So Mary, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Mary, I just wanted to interrupt. I apologize. My name is Angela Smagula, and I've been attending the session as counsel for the district, working closely with the superintendent and Mary. And I just want, and I've appeared before this board a couple of times. I just wanted to make a note that I represent a bunch of different districts, both large and small, and the work that's being done here in Lawrence is very, very impressive. And just the sheer amount of data collection and follow through with regard to both special ed in terms of the reorganization, which I can't say enough about, and I was no part of. I came in after that was done, but it's critical, and it's very critical during this time of COVID to have that level of organization, and just the work that's being done across the district here from my perspective as a semi-outsider is very impressive.
Angela, that means a lot. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for that. Okay, great. So Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you. My goal is, obviously we have a few more agenda items. I would like to ideally conclude by 9 if possible, just because it's, I know, a long meeting for this open session. I didn't state this at the beginning of the meeting, but it's been, obviously noticed that we are having an executive session immediately after this meeting for the purposes of discussing a contract, which is one of the allowed reasons. So I didn't say that up front, so I just want to put it for the record now. But Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you. So next, Maciel will brief you on a short presentation of our budget process. Many of you have already attended the budget subcommittee, but I'm going to let Maciel take it over.
So Dave, if you could please show the presentation. Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start by highlighting the timeline for the budget process. In December, the leadership team has already collaborated and met with the budget subcommittee to develop the budget priorities we will present to you later in this presentation for you to approve. In January, the school and department leads will have access to their budgets in my budget file. And then at the end of February, we will have our school planning meetings with our principals and department leads. And then afterwards in March, we will have our 2 budget hearings before we meet with the full LAE board in April to vote on the budget. And then in May, the Lawrence City Council will go ahead and give us the final approval. Next slide, please. Just to give you an overview of the school planning meetings, before the principals and come to their school planning meetings, they will go ahead and work with their teacher leadership teams to make decisions regarding the budget, the calendar, operational plan, and they will work together to develop goals. And they will also take into account feedback from their school leadership teams. And then after, they will go ahead and meet with we'll go ahead and meet with the school leaders and the school planning committee. And then during those meetings, what we do is we make sure that their goals align to the district priorities in a SMART format. We review their calendar, we review their operational plan, we discuss their staffing composition. We also review their academic and enrichment activities and walk through the budget in my budget file to make sure that it supports everything we've discussed prior to. Our budget priorities for this year are student achievement, to provide equitable standards, aligned curricula and instruction for all our students, support services, to expand continuum of academic, social, emotional, and mental health support, particularly for at-risk students. And then engagement is our last priority. Grow family and student engagement to build partnerships in service of our students' success in areas of attendance, academics, and holistic development. So next, I'll go ahead and highlight some of our achievements during this year under all of those priorities. So one of the things we've been able to do under student achievement is launch a year-long practicum, which will lead to certification in the Wilson Reading Program for 25 educational leaders. We have expanded the NWEA measures of academic progress growth assessment to all schools and grades K through 10 and some grade 11 and 12. And this includes data-informed professional learning for instructions and instructional planning and intervention strategies. Under student services, we have increased BCBA FTEs from 5 to 13. between the years of 2018 leading up to now, with recruitment that is still ongoing, to add an additional 5.0 FTEs as soon as we can, for a total of 18 added. We will continue to focus on restorative justice practices, partnering with Suffolk University and great school partnerships. And then we have also launched graduate cohorts with Lesley University, centered around their trauma-sensitive schooling, which will provide for graduate courses. And then in regards to our engagement priority, we have provided Power School parent portal to all our schools, providing parents with live access to assignments, grades, and attendance. And it's also provided secure access to report cards quarterly for grades 9 through 12 or trimester for grades K through 8. And additionally, we've also been able to have a family tech liaison in each school in order to be able to assist our families with their remote learning technologies. And here are our proposed budgets for the following budget year. We've opted to keep the priorities the same if possible, because they're multi-year. You know, given the pandemic, they've become multi-year priorities for us. And so I don't know if Cynthia, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, or if.
Yeah, that's right. So we've agreed as a team that maintaining these goals as multi-year goals makes the most sense. We have made progress towards them, and still there's much to be done. So our recommendation in a moment will be to adopt these same goals for next year.
And next slide, please. And so I will go ahead and discuss our budget committee budget subcommittee goals. And we would like to co-create the budget book with the subcommittee. So provide feedback on the budget priorities, which happens already. And hopefully you all will vote to accept those. Participate in all subcommittee meetings and attend as many as possible of the school planning meetings, to provide some transparency in the process. And then also finally approve the budget book and then co-facilitate the budget presentation to the full LAE board. Thank you. Any questions?
I get on mute. Again, thank you. I will go through board members, but and again, it was highlighted in the report, but the budget committee did have a chance to meet. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. So we did get a chance to discuss, you know, this presentation, but really the recommendations for the budget priorities, and you know, walk through the timeline and everything as well. So you know, just be clear that again, the budget committee did get a chance to weigh in on some of this before it was presented tonight. So. I will go see if there are any questions. Mayor Rivera, I know you were at the budget subcommittee meeting as well, but I don't know if you have any questions or comments at this time.
No, I'm all good. We asked a lot of the questions at the meeting.
Yep. Thank you. Pat? Pat, any questions or comments at this time?
No, I'm all set. Thank you. I asked at the subcommittee meeting.
Great. Noemi?
I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you very much.
And Jess?
No questions. I have complete confidence in the budget subcommittee.
Thank you. I'm on that committee, so I'll take some of that credit.
Thank you.
Okay, so Superintendent, is there anything else? Or if not, I'm happy to enter. Am I ready to ask for a motion to, do you mind putting back up the budget priorities? I just want to make sure folks know what they're voting on. And again, from the budget subcommittee, we discussed these. I think there was a lot of agreement and alignment on these being the priorities, given that we've made some progress, but obviously there's more work to do. And if you don't mind going back up, sorry, to the priorities, that would be great. Perfect. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the FY22 budget priorities as presented here.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. I will do a roll call vote. Jess?
Yes.
Noemi?
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Mayor Rivera,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And then just for the record, Julia had to leave the meeting, so she was not able to vote, but it does pass unanimously. So Maciel, thank you. Superintendent, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, wonderful. And for our final presentation this evening, we wanted to highlight our some teaching and learnings. So in a moment, we're going to queue up a brief video. The first one comes from the high school team. And sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. And the 9th grade principal, Melissa Spash, writes, Mr. Leonard Provost. Mr. Provost has worked hard over the course of this fall to engage students in meaningful, collaborative, and independent work. He's embraced project-based learning as a vehicle to increase student engagement during remote learning. In his most recent unit, Mr. Provost has students consider whether the United States is living up to the ideals outlined in the Declaration of Independence, and to help build student autonomy, he gave them a performance criteria so they could self-assess as they completed a milestone in the different project. He has embraced conferencing as a tool to give students very specific and targeted feedback, and he is committed to building strong relationships with each and every one of his students as he helps them achieve rigorous learning standards. And so you'll see him in action. Go ahead, Dave, whenever you're ready. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties here, so apologies for that, everyone. So I guess we can also bring these forth the next time, and so that means we will conclude our presentations for this evening, but we were hoping to highlight 2 videos for you as your request to continue to bring forth some teaching and learning highlights to you all, but we're happy to do, oh, here we are, we're back on. That should take just a few minutes.
You guys ready to get started? All right, me too. I'm gonna share my screen, so everyone's gonna have their own space. All right, well, we'll come and do that for you. And while you're in that space, you're gonna be working on your project. And at any point in time, if you feel, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, where am I supposed to be? How is this working? Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. We have created, Mr. Rodriguez and I have created this Did I sheet for you, which will allow you to actually look and reflect upon your own work. All right, so let me show you how it works. If I'm working on my project and I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. Well, I'm gonna look at the sheet. I'm gonna say, did I choose an ideal from the Declaration of Independence? Did I choose either equality, democracy, rights, liberty, or opportunity to focus on? If I did, great, check. If I didn't, well, that's what I should start doing. All right, I need to choose one of those. All right, if I did that, I put a check mark, I move forward. It says, did I identify the problem America or Americans are having living up to the ideal today? If I did, great, check. If I didn't, well, that's where I'm gonna focus. All right, I need to make sure that I identify the problem.
I know I'm just trying my best because like every day I see a whole lot of new worksheets, like not just one new tab, it's like multiple. I'm not gonna lie to you, I get confused when I see that.
And dude, I 100% hear what you're saying, and it's the same for me, you know what I mean? Like just the amount of emails and meetings I have to go to, like to keep it all on track, it's hard. And it's not something that we're necessarily used to doing. But I just came into this room. You had taken a little time from the beginning of class to eat your breakfast, and you were still doing exactly what you were supposed to do. So you obviously are getting good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just, getting that out the way because I'm about to start talking to my teachers to make noticeable what I'm about to try to do when it comes to my grades and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Stephen, if you continue to work like this, you're going to be just fine. I mean, whether you're able to go into Google Classroom, find the assignment we're supposed to be working on, get started, all kind of on your own. Those are skills, man, and those are skills that are going to translate really well to work. And if you're able to do that stuff here, I'm sure you're able to do it in other classes, and I'm sure you're going to do great. Now, if you ever need any help, man, like, I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so shoot me an email, whatever. I can talk to your teachers with you, whatever you need.
Thank you, and apologies. The principal here is Juan Rodriguez. So shout out to Mr. Provost and Juan Rodriguez. Next, the video is from the Lawler School, and this is Principal Jessica McLeod. And she writes, Mrs. Cora has dedicated herself to creating lesson plans and learning opportunities that are engaging and cohesive using Google Slides as the vehicle. In addition to being standards-based and pulling from curricular resources, the lessons seamlessly include behavioral expectations and SEO priorities in order for students to internalize the habits of mind, body that they need for social and academic success. Ms. Cora gracefully incorporates a number of techniques that before March 15th of 2020 were not part of her repertoire and they did not need to have. These are some of our youngest learners. This global pandemic has forced and inspired all of us to reformulate the process of education, and Ms. Cora has met that challenge. So without further ado, let's see her in action.
So welcome back to the Lawler School. You guys are right up here in room 6 with Miss Liz and Miss Cora, your teachers. Good morning and hello.
Every day, I go to school. I meet my friends. And we all say, hello, 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 hello. How are you? I'm good, I'm great, How about you?
My name is Catherine Cora, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at the Lawler School. The most exciting thing is that my kids are learning and making progress. So I have many students who have never been in school before. This is their first experience. So just seeing them learn the letter names and sounds and learning the letters in their name makes me feel like we're getting it right because they're learning. Whose name is this name?
Me.
Good morning, Rodaisy.
Good morning, Mrs. Liz.
Good morning, Rodelsi. What is your favorite thing about kindergarten?
Dancing.
Say, I like dancing.
I like dancing.
Junior, what do you like about school?
I like to play for my friends.
You like to play with your friends. Awesome. My kids are happy and excited to come to school every day. We do a feelings check-in, and they talk a lot about how excited they are to be in school and to see their friends. So I do feel like we are making a lot of progress in forming our community.
Mute yourself, honey. Thank you.
I'm a green zone.
Great. Do you want to share why you're feeling in the green zone?
I'm happy because I have
a beautiful picture. That's a Louis.
I have to say, Louis, that you really have learned a lot of English lately, a lot. Like you're able to, answer only in English.
Good job, Louis. Kiss your brain. So smart.
So hard.
Beautiful picture. I love your details.
I feel in the green zone.
Do you want to share why you feel green zone today?
Mm-hmm. I'm in the green zone because I was having my good nap and I'm really excited for my mommy to come back home, and I'm going to have so much fun with Emma inside my mommy's belly, and we're going to have a family party in here.
That's so exciting, Jane. You're going to be a wonderful big sister, I can tell.
Yeah, she is.
And I do think that we have a deeper connection with our families because the kids are in their homes and the families are literally right there helping their kids.
Thank you, Dave. So again, this is just some highlights of the amazing work that our teachers are doing across our districts. We will continue to profile some teacher work and interview them and continue to share with you all of their great work.
Thank you, Superintendent. Again, I think this is just, I said this earlier, but continuing to build on just like letting it come to life. Like we're able to see, you know, in addition to just all the presentations, to be able to literally see the work that kids and staff are doing just really means a lot. I do believe we have one more item, a donation, correct, Superintendent?
Yep, that's correct. So tonight we ask, we have from, I'm just looking at my note, from the Axe Secured Company located at 15 Union Street, a donation of 32 computers to the Oliver Partnership Schools. It has been presented to the Lawrence Teachers Unions, and we ask that you all approve this donation to the OPS school.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Roll call vote. Jess?
Yes.
Noemi?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mayor Rivera?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so it is approved. Thank you. Great, thank you. Superintendent, anything else?
No, not at this time.
Great, thank you. So the last order of business then for this regular meeting is the approval of the regular and executive session minutes. And I'm happy to entertain a motion to approve first the regular meeting minutes. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the meeting as is reflected in the agenda.
Great, do you have a second?
Second.
Great.
Second.
All right, so roll call vote. Jess?
Yes.
Noemi?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mayor Rivera?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so that passes. Can I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
Great. Jess?
Yes.
Okay. Noemi?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mayor Rivera?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So having no other business, in a second I will call for a motion for us to go into executive session. And again, it's for the purposes of discussing a contract, which is one of the allowable reasons. And just stating for the record that the board will adjourn from the executive session. So we will not be coming back to this session. So, and board members, before I take that motion, you should have the link to the Zoom information for the executive session. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Jess?
Yes.
Noemi?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Mayor Rivera?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So LAE members will reconvene in just a minute or so on the new link. All right. Thank you, everyone.